check.
Woo, woo. TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. I'm your friendly neighborhood philosopher, and if you don't know who I am, I'll let one of the greatest sheikhs of our time explain it. Sheikh Yasser Qadhi, who we talking to?
As for David Wood, I have rarely come across somebody who is more vulgar, vile, foul-mouthed, noxious, repugnant, depraved excuse of a preacher. Whatever he is, David Wood, it is obvious to any person of faith, is not a man of God. He's a vulgar, obscene, evil jerk.
Jerk.
And with me now is this walking, talking, living, breathing, atheist ball of rage and tears, the Apostate Prophet. How you doing, AP?
I'm angry. What do you think? How do you think I'm doing?
That's good.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing well. Yeah.
Hey, here you go. Hey, look. Why do people say David Wood is a closeted atheist? For the same reason they say AP is a closeted Christian. It's just a thing. It's just a thing in Islam to say whatever you say, we're going to say that you're actually the opposite. Ha!
Oh, I thought you were going to say because it's true.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, but it's true. Yeah. Me and AP came up with this plan a long time ago. We were like, hey, I'll pretend to be a Christian and you pretend to be an atheist. And we'll just always pretend to be the opposite of what we are. And then we'll do shows like that. And we're like, yay, what a great idea.
That's a fantastic idea, man.
Oh, man. People all, people are being brutal over here. AP crying like an atheist girl.
Why would this happen? Ayaan Hirsi is my hero. How could this happen?
By the way, I've noticed we were just talking right before we started about how you blast everyone over time you're just like you got the people you know and you insult and don't like anyone else. Yeah, what's going on with that?
I like that. I like doing that. I like insulting and I like trash talking everyone. So that's basically what I do.
Yeah. So what did you think about? I'm guessing you've never been a terrible fan of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, apart from her leaving Islam. But what are your thoughts on Ayaan?
No, I actually have. I had, and I still have, a lot of respect for her. She was one of the first, public, well-known ex-Muslim figures that I became aware of, and I thought that she always had a very, very passionate, very touching, very good story. And also, one thing that especially made me respect her is that short film that she created together with
Theo Van Gogh.
Together with Theo Van Gogh,
phenomenal,
who was killed for doing that, and she was threatened by the very same killer, and she kind of went into hiding, but still continued what she's doing. And I don't know, I just always admired how brave she was in the face of everything, and how outspoken she was, and how she didn't care at all about the backlash and all of that. So yeah.
Oh, I just gave you an opportunity to retcon your opinions. I never liked her.
I hate Ayaan Hirsi Ali.
Never liked her. She was never a real atheist. I always knew she was a closet Christian.
Always knew something was off about her. Nobody ever leaves atheism.
Yeah, and what was that film called? That short one? Was that Submission?
Yeah, I think, was it? No.
It was called something like that. It was like one word, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was Submission. You're right.
It's something like that, but that should be a big clue to everyone. Look at who.
Yeah, it was Submission.
Look at who the jihadis actually run out and kill. What makes them actually freak out? You've got that, and you've got cartoons. Notice it's whenever you're combining your critique with some sort of artistic vessel for including your message. That's what, for some reason, just makes them absolutely freak out.
You say that, but nobody came for us yet, and it's kind of disappointing. I don't know. I thought at this point we would be dead.
Yeah, well, look who they actually go after. They go after a bunch of like Theo Van Gogh. I mean, he's super awesome director and stuff, but
yeah,
He's, you know, he didn't seem like he'd be able to fight very much.
Yeah.
So they don't. That's why they don't go mess with you.
I think his final words.
Skills.
Yeah,
I remember. I remember his
final words were "Can we talk
about this?" Say that we did it at the exact same time. I remember.
Yeah,
and so that really sums up everything. I mean, this guy's. I think he was shooting him, and then he like started sawing through his neck. But yeah, his last words were, "Can we talk about this?"
Yeah.
Wild stuff. Let's get a couple super chats out here at the beginning real quick, and then we will jump into. We're going to watch some video clips. The clips of the recent panel discussion where Ayaan was talking about Christianity and why it's absolutely superior to atheism and Islam. And we'll check out those clips, and then we'll go through her article, Why I Am Now a Christian, which she titled deliberately as a kind of a reverse of Bertrand Russell's classic essay, Why I Am Not a Christian. But let's see. Stream late. This proves atheism is superior to Christianity? No. It's the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
Proves Christianity superior to atheism.
That's true.
Sam's Cola says, atheism is a cult, Allah Akbar.
Yeah.
Please be patient. AP is still recovering from crying. It was. Yeah. I had to like calm him down for like the last 7 hours.
I wasn't sure if I could make it, if I could go live, because I was so devastated, but I'm here. I'm standing strong.
You do it. You could do it. Just keep a box of tissues handy.
Yeah.
Okay. Wake up, babe. New far left, far right Muslim, Naturai Karta alliance just dropped. I'm not sure which one that is, but there are alliances forming and breaking all over the place. AP,
do you know about Naturai Karta? Do you know?
No, what is that?
They are these. That's this cult among the an ultra orthodox Jewish cult that is anti-Zionist. And they often show up, like you could see them when something happens with Israel. They often show up and they're like,
yeah, I didn't know they were called that. I didn't know they're call that. I've seen those guys numerous times in New York City. Yeah, whenever there's some
Israel,
and they will, whenever there's some sort of event that involves like a pro-Israel protest or something like that, then these guys would be across the street with their own group. Yeah. And AP, you mad? Why are you stuttering? I need a darn. I should have had the "Why are you stuttering" sound effect so that every time you talk this evening, as we're discussing Ayaan Hirsi Ali, I can, why stuttering? I'll just have to say it. Stop fighting, Christians and atheists. Find a pen pal.
Yeah. How about find a pen pal?
Here we are again. If anyone had just listened to Jordan Peterson last year and started getting pen pals, we would not be in this mess right now.
I know.
If Hamas jihadis had simply gotten an Israeli pen pal, then...
Despite Farfour, they would have...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, we could have Farfour get a Palestinian... get an Israeli pen pal, and it changes everything.
That's funny.
Let's see. AP, your intro song on your live, cause spontaneous twerking syndrome. That is the proper way of worship. Ping the pen pal. Allah.
Yes.
Spontaneous twerking syndrome.
Yes, that's true.
David, please do Jordan Peterson on Muhammad's Boom Boom Room. God bless you both, D Wood and AP, in Jesus' glorious name. Praying for you both. Yeah, AP does a better Jordan Peterson impression, but he doesn't look like Jordan Peterson.
I look exactly like Jordan Peterson.
I could gray my hair, but I'd have to lose like 40 pounds. So yeah, he'd definitely be awesome for the Boom Boom Room. I wonder if the jihadis and the Dawa guys pester him enough, maybe we'll actually get Jordan Peterson in there. Hi. Well, now you finally ticked me off, eh? So I'm going to go in the Boom Boom Room. How about that?
That'd be nice. That'd be cool.
David, please read in hijab voice. You see, AP, this is the truth of Christ. You must convert because of the truth. Live in your eternal life or die in your rage. That last part wasn't in there, but
he was giving a speech where he was talking about how the Jews are now shivering and all that because of social media, because of how Muslims revolutionized everything and they stand up for each other. And the Jews, you see them trembling.
I saw that in Rabbi Shmuley, because people were pointing out that Rabbi Shmuley was scheduled to debate hijab. So I went over there and he had shared that. And it's like, what planet do you live on, man? Like, what planet does this guy live on? Oh, yeah, the Jews are all trembling. Wow.
It's so funny. On one hand, they're like, what the IDF is doing and the whole world is watching. And on the other hand, it's like, the Jews are trembling.
Trembling!
Make up your mind, man.
Wow. AP, you're next on the Muslim to atheist to Christian praying for you and your wife and Bambinos.
Inshallah.
Dare you talk about him like that? Giovanni here says that's going to be Hamas after Israel gets done with them. Can we talk about this? Oh, yeah. Come on, guys. It was only a joke. They're saying that like Hamas is going to be like Theo Van Gogh, and that they're going to be the ones. Can we talk about this, guys? Can we talk about it? Yeah, it was just a joke. It was just a joke. That terrorist attack. But I mean, notice Israel's going after Hamas because of a massive terrorist attack. Theo Van Gogh was brutally murdered over a little video critiquing artistically Islam's treatment of women.
Yeah.
Moogly moo, scream for us, please. Alhamdulillah. What's it like in New York City? Muslim version of that plain white song. Hey there, Delilah. Think it will take off? God bless. No, it's not going to take off. And from Weirdo Williams, keep it up, man. All right. Thank you, everyone. And now we're going to jump into our first video clip. Have you seen any of this? Have you seen any of this panel discussion?
I have not. I only read a few things that were quoted, and that's all I saw. I didn't see it.
All right. So this will be new information. AP was crying and he didn't know anything about what she said, and now he's going to find out what she said.
And
oh, mama.
I'll be happy.
Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
And it's very arrogant to assume that you can change human beings to fit into all sorts of modules.
Yeah, quite assuming that, AP.
How dare you!
Therefore, you...
Okay. Just...
Liar! Liar!
All right, here we go.
Accept that there is a power transcendent above us. And that idea that there is something above us, a higher power, I think that is rooted in Christianity, it's rooted in the Judeo-Christian traditions.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Did you catch that?
She forgot to mention Islam.
Oh, she's about to. She forgot
to mention how Islam also has a wonderful impact and contributes to society and all that. Yeah.
And in many ways, it is superior to the nihilistic Nietzsche type atheistic theology that human beings can do, and they can create everything, and they can manipulate. And it's also superior, I would say, to the faith that I grew up in, with a God and a theology and a story that gives individuals a sort of one-dimensional purpose.
Traitor!
What? She's saying that Christianity is better than Islam. I don't know why you'd object to that. Let's let her finish.
Traitor!
Go and do this. Make everyone a Muslim. And if they refuse, kill them. And then the day of judgment will come and life will be over. That's a simple story. But it's an abiding story. It's been around for 1,400 years. The Judeo-Christian tradition, that it is not up to the human being to do that. But all we can do is civilize and continue to civilize and question and check power. Power that is checked, that is the power that guarantees most people real freedom.
All right, AP. So there you have Ayaan Hirsi Ali, whom you admit is one of your greatest heroes for most of your life. And she says that the Christian view of the transcendent is superior to atheism. Now, to be fair, she did say a Nietzsche-type atheism, but you're Nietzsche's biggest fanboy in history. And she said it's superior to Islam. Your reaction, but try not to cry. Try to.
Okay, one thing about the whole Nietzsche thing is, I felt like she was mischaracterizing Nietzsche's ideas there a little bit, because it's often understood by many people that Nietzsche represents this whole thing, like this nothing matters kind of worldview, and this nihilistic worldview. But in reality, Nietzsche was very much opposed to nihilism, and he was warding of nihilism. He was basically saying that he was actually even accusing Christianity of being nihilistic in a way, and religions in general of being nihilistic. And but he was saying that what is even more dangerous is the nihilism that you will fall into once you have removed God from society, and you have abandoned the morals that these religions gave, that Christianity, for example, gave. You will be left with nothing. And that nihilism to him was the most dangerous thing. And what he was talking about is that in that state, humans must learn to move forward and to become better people by building a new moral system that is based on the will to power, which is often also misunderstood. But I wouldn't say that Nietzsche was representing a nihilistic way. He was actually against that. That said, did you want to add something? Or what?
No, I was just thinking about Nietzsche as you were talking about. Yeah, he had some like when he's talking about eternal recurrence and the affirmation, are you living the life that you could actually want to recur over and over again forever, like an infinite number of times? Mm-hmm. And that often gets interpreted as like a little mental exercise, like, hey, could you actually will like everything that's happening in your life to happen over and over and over again? But one of my professors, who was a Nietzsche scholar, pointed out that like they found in his notebooks where he was like trying to prove it like mathematically that this was going to actually happen, that this is all going to happen over and over and over again. But notice this idea of like affirming everything in your life, that doesn't sound like nihilism.
Yeah, well, he was stressing the whole being authentic, not wasting your life on regret and on weakness which you are taught, but on being exactly as you said, that is one of the lines of living the life that you would be proud of, that you would be happy with if you lived it over and over again. So that's not really nihilism. That's the opposite of nihilism, I would say.
I think she could just take Nietzsche out of what she just said and then just describe it in terms of values, because what she said was, the idea that we can just make this for ourselves. So that's kind of that is in Nietzsche, that if you've removed Christianity, then you don't have the Christian morality anymore, and therefore you need something else. You need to replace it with something else. And that's where he says, must we not become like gods ourselves in order to invent this? So I think she's going in that kind of direction with the idea that we could make this up, we can invent this for ourselves. But then she talks about and just manipulate. So I think what she's on about there is a more pessimistic view of the project of morality and atheism that would go something like, yeah, there's no real foundation for any of this. So we have to figure it out, but then we have to sell it to the masses. And so for them, we have to manipulate them. We have to manipulate people into going along with these things. If you don't actually have some sort of shared value system, then it's just going to have to be some sort of mass manipulation. And that is sort of a popular view. Like, well, okay, if you're taking away if you're taking away Christianity and you're replacing it with something, what are you replacing it with? It looks like, right, it just, what it looks like in the world is it's just going to be various kinds of manipulation from whether it's journalists or politicians or educators or entertainers, that what's actually on the table for replacing it is just mass manipulation through media and social media and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I understand that to lots of people, that seems to be one of the big problems with a non-religious or post-religious world, where you were given a foundation for morality and for your meaning of life. Now it's taken away, and now suddenly you live in a void, and you could go in any direction, in every direction. And I guess one of the points that she makes also further on in this whole speech is that whatever comes into whatever replaces this morality, this foundation, will not be good enough to replace what we had, will not be good enough in the face of the approaching wave of Islam. So
yeah, there is quite a bit in what she's saying of, okay, so, and it's kind of a response to like Western intellectuals who think, hey, you just knock out Christianity. And I mean, look at it. I mean, if you were Christopher Hitchens or Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins, like, what, we're fine. We don't believe in God and we're fine. What's the problem here? And it looks like what she's pointing out is, no, actually, you guys may be fine, but when you've got communism that's about to come at you swinging, and you've got Islam, which is about to come at you swinging, and you've got this sort of woke thing that's coming out of the West, and that's swinging at you from within, what you guys have is not going to be able to stand up against that, and therefore you're going to need something more. What do you have? So I think that's a lot of the direction she's heading in.
Even Richard Dawkins said something recently, didn't he? He said something about maybe it wasn't a good idea to.
Well, this was he actually saw this, and I think he was just thinking in terms of Islam in Europe, but because this was back in like 2010 in an interview, and he said he was asked about the decline of Christianity, and he said, I have mixed feelings about the decline of Christianity because I think it may have been a bulwark against something worse. Sounds like he was talking about Islam, and it just sounds like he was just thinking, just like observing, like, wait a minute. For 14 centuries, Christians stopped those guys from taking over Europe. Now the moment we go secular, we can't invite them in fast enough. What's going on here? So something along those lines. So let me get a couple of super chats here, because some of these are along these lines. Giovanni says, I know how to convert AP David, just saying amazing grace to him, instant conversion. Well, I could do that, or I could just send him a letter as a pen pal.
Yeah.
Get a Christian pen pal, atheists. So here's Zach saying, does she proclaim Christ as king, or does she just give Christian values a thumbs up? Yeah, because I've been seeing a lot over the past few years, atheists who were really hostile like 12 years ago, not nearly as hostile anymore. They don't believe in it. They don't believe in it at all, but they're just saying, okay, it's kind of good if a bunch of the rest of you do. And what's interesting, that used to be the standard view of atheists. Like atheists in the 80s and 90s, you had, because I was there, but you had like American atheists, and they were like the angry ones. But most atheists didn't seem to like them. Most atheists were like, hey, look, I don't believe in this stuff, but I'm fine if everyone else believes that God tells them to love their neighbor and so on. So, and then like after 9/11, then it changed, and you had the rise of the new atheism and so on. So keep in mind, like the idea of the friendly atheist is not new. Atheism just became much more hostile and aggressive for about 2 decades, but that was pretty common before that.
Pretty short-lived, yeah. But did she do like a statement of faith? Did she say, I believe?
Yeah, that's what we're about to get to. It's more, she's saying something more than just, hey, Christian values are good or better or something. She's saying something more than that. She is saying something about the transcendent and so on. But yeah, she doesn't sound like she's affirming, yes, I believe in God, and yes, I believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead and so on. She's not dealing with any of that.
Does she say Christianity is based or not? So if she says
says
Christianity
it's
is
totally
based,
based. If she said, yeah, we're going to look through this. If she says it's based, we know she's good, because that's what the book of Romans says. Confess with your mouth Christianity is based, and
yeah,
you'll be
yeah.
saved. So we are going to be looking into this, Zach, as we go through some of these video clips. UI Josh says, if only AP would take off the leather straps, he would see the truth. God bless you. It's weird how people are combining like everything.
yeah. It is important. It's important. Yeah.
Let's defend Hitler and Satan team just took an L. Oh, they're going to be taking all kinds of L's here pretty soon.
What's your problem with
What?
I'm not going to say that.
We know what you want to say, AP. Who else would like to see this absolute queen debate? Ilhan Omar on Hamas and Islamism. Yeah, that would be. They're both Somalis and so on, and they went in totally different directions. And I think that would be something really awesome. Someone with a big podcast should try and set that up. I don't think Ilhan Omar would do it. I think Ayaan would. I don't think Ilhan would. The leather strap has entered the chat.
Yeah.
You're still my fave bromance on the internet. Bromance, did you not see how I just betrayed him completely with that thumbnail and trashed him?
Yeah, he destroyed me, and I'm about to destroy him.
Yeah, that's what we're about to do. I want to get a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas, but my mom said I'll shoot the leather strap of my anus out. You don't know what that's about, do you?
No,
you never saw. You never saw
What?
A Christmas Story?
I think I did.
Yeah, that's
Sure
he wants a BB gun, and the response was always, "You'll shoot your eye out." And so he's saying they changed it to, "I'll shoot the leather strap of the anus." D Wood, saw your debate with Isa Kabir. How do you really refute that worldview? I don't know what sect he is, but it reminded me of Islamic progressive Christianity. Yeah, it is. I mean, if people aren't arguing like these are the arguments that prove my position is true, it's hard. It's just a different way of thinking. The way that Sufis, Isa is a Sufi, so the way they think is different, and it's almost like you'd need someone who thinks in the same way but has a completely different position for him to kind of speak the language. It's like, it's very easy to debate in the realm of like analytic philosophy. It's much harder to debate with like continental philosophy. I can't even figure out what continental philosophers are saying a lot of the time, just because they're thinking so differently from the way I think. So yeah, I mean, really, with Isa, with Isa's position, it's not like here's my proposition and here's my argument and so on. Nothing like what you'd encounter from the Dawa guys. So yeah, I'd have to hear a lot more about it and to have some more discussion.
He largely agrees with us. That's very funny.
Yeah, I do want to get Isa on some live streams with us. To have some. I'd really like to have him just break down Sufi Islam for people and to explain some of the differences between that and what we're used to, because we have our standard picture of Islam that we're getting from the guys who keep coming at us constantly. But it is interesting to see some of the alternatives to it.
It's so funny because I was debating with him, and he said something like, if Islam was all violent, if this was a violent religion, Muhammad could have simply just brought down the wrath of Allah from heaven and all of that. And I said, well, I know why that didn't happen. It's because he was not a true prophet. And then he started cracking up.
That's what I like.
I didn't expect that.
Like Isa is a perfect example. You and I have talked lots of times before about lots of the Dawa guys. We think even if these guys weren't Dawa guys, even if they converted to atheism or Christianity, we still would not get along with a lot of these guys. But there are some of the Dawa guys that we think, okay, if they didn't hate us, we would actually get along with them. But Isa's like a perfect example of we would totally get along with him. Even he's a Muslim, but we would totally get along with him because he doesn't want to kill us. He doesn't get enraged about any little thing we say and so on. So yeah, we're fans. Layman Christian said, AP, have you had a real look into Christianity? Is it something you could be open to? Have you tried praying? God bless you both. I have to say, AP has looked a lot more into Christianity than a lot of Christians. So, but what's your response here?
You can't say that, man. It's very bad.
Because he's a closet Christian.
Yeah, yeah. I have. I spent a lot of time on that, with that, over the years.
Sorry, I'm laughing at the next comment I'm about to bring up. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
in different phases. Especially, there was a time when I was several years ago. Some people remember when I was plagued with anxiety and problems like that. There, I thought, I really need something in my life. This is unbearable. At that time, I was really, looking into that very, very closely. So yeah, there were. I don't want to say anything about my conclusions right now. I did. Yeah.
And we're about to see that because we're going to go through Ayaan's article, but towards the end of her article, this is why I said she goes beyond just saying, "Hey, I give a thumbs up to Christian values and how they can help the West," or something like that. She goes into like kind of her personal need to believe in something beyond herself and so on. So we'll be taking a look at that in a moment here. And I was laughing because the next Zakir Naik, your next AP, you're going to write a book called "Seeking Atheism, Finding Jesus." You see, this is the proof that Christianity is true. Hey, that is a funny little side note in that. We'll sit here. We're gonna discuss Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and when I'm writing, atheists are crying because of this and so on. I'm joking. We're imitating the Dawa guys because if someone like Ayaan Hirsi Ali had converted to Islam, they would be parading this through the streets as the new proof that Islam is true. And we've pointed out over and over again. Guess what? People convert to all kinds of things all the time. Tons of Hollywood movie stars become Buddhists and so on. The moment any one of them says Islam, then it's, you see, this is the proof. It's just weird.
If Ayaan Hirsi Ali really had she suddenly converted to Islam and announced that, they would be all over. They would be inviting her. They would make video after video saying, "Famous Islamophobe realizes Islam is the truth. This is what made her change her mind." And it would be like, look, and still there are some idiots out there who do this and this and that. They would be all over it, man.
Absolutely. And Habibi says, "Hey, here's my jizya. I'm praying for AP. Peace be upon him."
Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
And Cedric here with the Garka Tree Fund.
Build more Garka trees. We need them.
All right, we got some more super chats coming up, but let's go through this next video clip. We got 3 short video clips, and then we're going to take a look at this article. But here we go.
I think that in the West, we made this mistake of having a debate about is there a God? Is there a God? And then having everybody weigh in and twisting ourselves into pretzels. There is no God, there is a God. Which is, I think, and I've come to realize over time, that is a waste of time. It's not in the least helpful. I think what we should have done instead, what we should do instead, is compare the different concepts of God that humanity has come up with, and the different stories that humans have told each other about that what is transcendent.
Did you catch what she's aiming at there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's again, it's just like a different way of thinking, and she's thinking way more in like pragmatic, practical terms, saying, "Hey, you're saying the debate we're having is prove that this thing is true, prove that that thing is true, prove that this belief is true, prove that that is true." When what you should be saying is, "Hey, here's how this compares to this and compares to this, and where it gets us. And this one is better than these other things that that are available to us right now." Again, she's going to go beyond that. But as far as what she's saying right here, she's saying, okay, instead of debating whether, like, what she doesn't say this, but it would be the same idea. Instead of debating Trinity versus Tawheed, you should be looking at like this sort of concept and what it leads to, and this sort of concept over here and what it leads to. And well, that one total worldview is better than this other worldview over here, or one concept of the transcendent is better than this other one. What are your, like, lots of people have a massively negative reaction to it, but I think it's actually part of it. That's actually part of your reasoning process. It's not just, hey, here are the propositions and here's my conclusion that I draw from, plugging these things into this argument form and getting this conclusion. real world implications for beliefs also are relevant. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, as soon as she said that, the whole debate around is there a God or is there no God, is very much a waste of time. That's something I said quite a bit over the years, but for different reasons. So at first I thought, hey, that's something I said, but then the way she explains it is different. So she compares the systems to each other to figure out what is better in a pragmatic sense, I guess. And whereas I don't know if I have ever viewed it that way, if I would still view it that way. Not entirely sure, but I get where she's getting at, and this is kind of consistent with how I saw Ayaan Hirsi Ali for all these years, and with how many others saw her as well. She was never part of that whole a representative of that whole atheist crowd. She was never,
Yeah,
talking about atheists.
she was rolling with them, but she did seem different the entire time.
Yeah, and she was also politically different. She wasn't very much close to the rather left-leaning mindset. She didn't participate very much in the atheist conversations and all of that. So it's not surprising that she says these things. It is very interesting though.
Yeah, I have to say, I haven't. I've watched lots of Jordan Peterson videos over the years, but normally the short ones, not like a lot of his long lectures. But I'm getting the vibe, like lots of what she's saying in some of these clips and her article. It's reminding me of the kind of things I've heard from Jordan Peterson over the years, and it sounds like she's kind of combining like the Tom Holland stuff in Dominion, where he's talking about the impact of Christianity on the world, and then combining that with like a more like psychological interpretation of the scriptures and, what, like a deeper psychological meaning to things. And so like matter of fact, Jordan Peterson did this when he was having a discussion with Bill Maher. Bill Maher's like, Jonah and the whale, that's so dumb. And Jordan Peterson like breaks down like an underlying meaning to the whole thing. And Bill Maher's like, whoa, I never thought of any of that. And so it's kind of like she's in the same direction here. And like, hey, instead of like dismissing something because you think it's silly or it's a dumb belief, why don't you like dig a little deeper and understand the relevance of this before you toss it out, something like that.
How about you think about that a little bit further?
Yeah. And she's like, and so I've realized we need to get a pen pal.
Nice.
Let's go.
And what I find appealing, for instance, about the Judeo-Christian story is that that transcendent power ends up being a story about freedom, about tempering power, about establishing institutions and establishing teachings that give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, that don't matter, basic, maybe universal human decency then becomes that's your religious, that's how you worship your transcendent. That story is superior to a number of other stories that I know. And I think that's the story we should be having. And if you have that story...
And so,
why is she stuttering?
Yeah, and again, I don't know, this just reminds me of like Jordan... I don't know, it reminds me of Jordan Peterson, like this concept of the transcendent, and here's the role it's playing, and so on. A few more seconds of this.
And if you have that legacy, you've inherited that, then you not only appreciate it, but you also fight to preserve it. And you have a mirror to hold to the other gods that are presenting themselves as omnipotent and powerful and better.
And notice what you just said there. If you've got this, and here's the impact that it has on you, and here's the foundation it provides for you. She said you'll be willing to fight to preserve it. And a lot, again, she's going to go beyond this, but this looks to be falling right in line with a lot of the other stuff that's going on and that people are thinking is not the sort of thing that you fight to preserve. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to stand up and put your life on the line for this kind of thing. You're just not going to. And so, and then she adds the mirror thing that you can actually compare it to to other positions and so on. Any thoughts on any of that?
Nothing
No?
to add.
Go a couple super chats here, and then we'll jump into the third clip. I think that's where she declares her a Christian. She's a Christian, or earlier. I don't know. Let's see. Giovanni here says they aren't so hostile to us now because I think he's talking about atheists. They aren't so hostile to us now because they see the ugly things coming, so they push their backs up against us. Because it's, as David says, atheists are just heretical Christians. So, he's saying that atheists are actually warming up to Christianity because they're worried about a lot of the bad things in the world. I mean, that could be part of it, but I think part of it is just kind of a failed experiment. Like if you go back 20 years, the message of the new atheist, again, as opposed to atheists in the 90s were not like this, but they said, hey, we actually need to just mock and ridicule people's beliefs until they drop these beliefs, and then everyone will be like us. Everyone will be like the intellectual new atheists and so on, and the world will be a better place. And we've had 20 years of that, and they've had a degree of success in terms of belief in Christianity declining and so on, and the numbers of atheists rising and so on. And so we've gotten a glimpse of how the world will actually change. And what you don't see is some sort of like scientific utopia forming, which is what was thought like 20 years ago. Hey, if we just get religion out of the way, it's going to be this utopia of rationality and science and so on. And it just doesn't look like that. It looks like as soon as most people reject Christianity, they cling to something else that then becomes a kind of alternative religion, even if it's just like, some weird like political cult or something like that. Seems they just jump on something else. And the actual impact is like everything becoming fragmented and everyone being at war with each other over this new idol that they've taken since they've abandoned Christianity. And I think a lot of atheists are just realizing this isn't going the way we thought. So maybe we need to pump the brakes on what we were planning here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, even several years ago, still, or maybe I don't know, half a decade ago, there were in the atheist community, in the online atheist community, it was a very popular thing to just to post statistics and to say, look at this, look, religion is declining, look, so many atheists here, look, so many atheists there, soon people are finally realizing, they're finally waking up, and so on. Like, this was a very popular narrative, something that people always cheered about and wanted to look at, and it kind of became very quickly unpopular. It became very quickly irrelevant. It became very quickly it faded away. Obviously it doesn't really work like that. Religion is here to stay, as many people have acknowledged, and even if things change slightly, it doesn't mean that soon in our lifetime there will be no more religion left. It will be all atheistic, and we will all be happy, and we will just party all day, and we will love each other and all that. Yeah, that's nonsense. Mm-hmm. It's nonsense. That's not how it works. And once you give up your religious values altogether and open the doors to everyone else, then those who didn't give up their values, which are pretty bad, will probably come in and will start imposing their values, because they will think, oh, look at this, these people don't have values, let's give them our values. Mm-hmm. Let's give them our values, let's tell them about ours, and if they don't accept it, let's beat them. So the world is not as wonderful, as happy, as cute as people thought. So that probably has an impact here.
That is an ongoing. Everyone has this exact same issue. It seems like the sort of intellectual atheists who are leading the new atheist charge. They seem to think, hey, if people get rid of religion, they'll be like us. They'll be like us. Yeah. You have lots of Christians who think that Muslims are just like us, except for they have a couple different beliefs, and so on. And so Christians lots of times emphasize, I've heard, don't criticize Muhammad, don't criticize the Quran, just preach how much you love them and so on, and not realizing, hey, yeah, this does have an impact on certain Muslims and so on. But other Muslims like actually respect you more if you come at them like blasting away at them and so on. It's a culture that respects strength more than being nice and so on. But Christians in the West tend to think like, Like I've had people watch the exact. This goes back to me and Nabil watching debates where you could watch the exact same debate with a Muslim and with some Christians, and the Christians are actually judging based on who's nicer. Like whoever is nicer in the debate, they favor that person. The Muslims are whoever's more aggressive in the debate. That guy's getting the thumbs up, like separate from arguments and so on. So anyway, and then you've got Muslims who think that underneath everything, we're all just like them and we want to subjugate them and slaughter them and so on when we actually don't and so on. So everyone has this view of other people are like me. And anyway, they're just not.
Yeah, and one of those things is also one of the things is that we talked about this before. This is a very long and complicated thing, but Nietzsche pointed out the same thing. Tom Holland pointed out the same thing. It's Christianity has an impact on society. The religion that is part of that is at the foundation, at the core of a society, has a very large impact on how the society thinks. And even in an environment where people are no longer Christian, but they are post-Christian, meaning they are in a country, in a culture that was deeply impacted by Christianity, that was very much built on Christian values, people will still hold on to a lot of Christian values without even knowing it. Even when they're criticizing Christianity, or even when they're criticizing religion, when they are criticizing the Bible, and say, no, it's not good, it's intolerant, it's this and that, they are basically appealing to values which they learned from those very same religions. The sense of compassion, of being being equal, and things like that, and people people have to at some point realize that is what taught them how to think and how to feel, and whatever comes from afar to replace those values is not quite as good as they thought.
Yeah, and there's you have in a culture you'll have a belief system and a value system. When people start applying skepticism and saying, hey, this isn't true, they're normally targeting certain beliefs and so on. Like, let's say, in this case, a belief in God, a belief in Christianity, a belief in the Bible, and so on. They don't attack the moral values in the same way. In other words, they'll hey, why do you believe in Jesus? This is just a myth. You can't trust this source and so on. They don't come in guns blazing at compassion and things like that. They don't attack those same things. The concern is once you've sort of swept away the foundation for these things, it is easy for someone else to come along later and then all of a sudden just go blitzkrieg. I'm appealing to the Germans in a certain reason. Go blitzkrieg on those values that now have no foundation. And then, hey, why you believe in this? Oh, only stupid people believe in this. Real people believe that you crush your enemies. And it's just easy to do that. And then, yeah, why do we believe this sort of thing? Here you go. Benjamin here. Just along the lines of what we saw earlier. Hey, AP, have you ever thought about giving Jesus a chance? He really can change your life, bro. You could quit being an atheist loser.
Yeah, I don't think he needs me to give him a chance. But if I want to take that differently, not literally, yes, yes, I have. I basically commented on that earlier.
Yeah.
And,
Kendrick here says, what does the leather strap of the anus quote mean? We've explained it repeatedly before. Give you the quick rundown. The leather strap referred to a leather strap on a bottle that holds a bottle closed. And so Muhammad wants to say, the message he wants to get across is, hey, while you're asleep, you don't have the control you're awake over what comes out of your rear end. You don't have conscious control anymore. So you don't know what's going to slip out at night. And so he comes up with this saying, which is supposed to be powerful and eloquent. But the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, meaning once your eyes are closed, you kind of lose control over the leather strap of like a bottle. And if you lose control of the leather strap of a bottle, you don't know what's going to, you could spring a leak. So he's saying when you're asleep, you could spring a leak. And therefore, but notice it's a weird situation where he's making an okay point, but in the worst possible way. hey, wash your rear end when you wake up because you don't know what slipped out. Okay, it would have been great if you just said that, but and then people keep rolling with it. Beauty is in the leather strap of the anus of the beholder. Now everyone's just replacing any quote with eyes in it with leather strap of the anus.
You know what? It's actually worse than that. It's actually dumber than that, because the actual point, as far as I remember, of that whole idea is that if you go to sleep, yes, it's exactly as you said. If you go to sleep, you don't know what's going to come out. Therefore, since Allah doesn't accept your prayers, your 5 daily prayers, your salah, in such a state after you have farted, it might be that you did fart during your sleep, so you should, when you wake up, do the ablution, because you went to sleep and you might have unknowingly
you don't
released wind, and Allah doesn't like that, so go wash yourself. So
yep. So anyway, Muhammad could have said any of that very just easily and clearly. Instead, he wanted to demonstrate his eloquence and thus made himself the laughing stock of the internet forever, because apparently no one's ever going to forget this.
The laughing stock of the anus.
All right, back to Ayaan.
Ayaan, maybe
Wait, were you about to say something else really messed up?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so here Jordan's asking her.
close with
question.
you, if you don't mind. And so you, relatively early in your life, you moved away from a totalizing religious view of the world. And I don't exactly know into what you then moved, whether that was a secular humanism, but what I'm hearing from you now, and I believe this is also the case with your husband, is that you have come to a new understanding of the existence of the transcendent per se, and also of your relationship with it. Now, first of all, do I have that right? And
This is so weird. It says, I don't know what you moved in. Like, you don't know about Ayaan Hirsi Ali? It's like, I know you moved away from one thing. You moved into something else, but I'm not sure what that, you didn't know that, like,
He even had a long interview with her.
Yeah, I don't know. What's going on?
second of all, like, is that the movement that you have made, and if so, why?
So, and I made a video about this, but the actual progression seems to be, she had a view of what she's going to call the transcendent, and that's the Islamic view. And then she rejected that to where there is no transcendent. And now she's believing in she does need the transcendent, and she's going with the Christian concept, because it's kind of, it looks like better for the world. And we're going to see this in the article. She's like, it's basically got everything she needs in there. But yeah, let's see.
So I rebelled against a transcendent, a concept of God, of a God that now manifests itself in, the Iranian regime, Hamas, ISIS. That was the God I grew up with. That was the story that I grew up with. I rebelled.
And by the way, that's what she just said is part of the reason that when we've seen these statistics where they estimate like between 5 and 10% of people who are still counted as Muslims in Muslim countries are actually closet atheists. I remember an article about Iraq, and this is even before ISIS. So this is pre-ISIS. There was an article talking about the younger generation in Iraq just despises religion. Again, this is pre-ISIS. This is before they saw Islam in all its glory. But they were saying that, they were saying the younger generation just despises religion based on looking around at what it produces. And they're like, we don't want anything. We don't want anything to do with this mess. And so she's looking around at, Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood and all this, and saying, oh my goodness, what is this mess?
That's so misguided. Poor youth. Like, they don't understand the glory of Islam.
The glory of Islam. That's why they need Muhammad hijab to show them, and Ali Dawah to provide airtight arguments.
Can you imagine, by the way, like, I was just thinking, listening to Jordan Peterson and Ayaan Hirsi Ali, their exchange. Can you imagine if somebody like Muhammad Hijab was in that, on that panel?
Yeah, I know.
In this very reasonable conversation.
Why are you stuttering? He would have said, like,
what are you talking about?
Why are you stuttering? Why are you stuttering?
Yeah.
Huh? Look at you! Look at you, trembling!
What are
And
your
of course,
qualifications?
and she would have this 6'8" guy right beside her yelling at her, and so she'd obviously get a little nervous. What's going on with this guy? You see how they tremble before us? Ha ha! What a joke, man! What a joke! This is awesome.
Against that. And then when I was bold enough to say, and this was in the Netherlands, I don't want any of that. I didn't convert to Christianity. I didn't convert to another religion or another God. I carried with me this idea, the three-letter word of God stands just for evil. And my best...
So notice it's not the Islamic God is evil. She just, I thought anything with God in it. So basically religion is evil.
That's what many people assume people go through in general when they leave religion. I didn't really go through that, but I see that but I did have some little resentment in me at some point. But I don't think I ever really went into that like extreme direction.
I'm just saying I'm wondering if that has something to do with kind of your background, like if you had come from like more of a like Muslim Brotherhood type background.
Yeah, maybe
if you'd be more
yeah. She also, somebody pointed it out in the chat, but she underwent female genital mutilation, and she also talked about that.
That's almost everyone in Somalia.
And she I don't know, very mistreated and stuff like that. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
Came Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins. My best friends became Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins. These are people I still love and adore. And I think over time, I'm now 53. And so when I made this, when I was in this state of rebellion, it started for me when I was 32 years old. Over time, I've come to realize, and I wish Christopher was alive today to comment on what we're going through.
I say the same thing so often.
I would love to have Christopher. I mean, we got Douglas Murray. He's pretty good. But yeah, I would love Christopher Hitchens' commentary on a lot of the stuff that's going on.
I would love him to comment on the whole Islamic influence and stuff that is happening around the world in the UK, especially. He would have some really, really harsh and direct and very good things to say.
Yeah, and he has the combination of having the really, really smart sound, the smartest sounding accent in the entire world, the smart sounding British accent, not one of the 11 different stupid sounding British accents. You got the smart one.
Hey, Stu, what's going on there, mate?
Hey, governor. He had the smart sounding, but then he combines it with like a massive, like a way with words. So he's got the accent and then he's got a way with words there and super intelligent and so on. So yeah, he's got a total package of rhetoric there. And again, I think Douglas Murray's the closest thing there is to it right now.
He's solid.
We were actually having a conversation about, in my view, the wrong conversation. Does God exist? It was the world built in 6 days. Do we believe in fairy tales? And that was the wrong conversation to have. The right conversation to have, as I said earlier, was to compare what we as human beings, the transcendent that we have imagined and developed over centuries. And so now I can say I am proudly of a Judeo-Christian religion.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Grab your tissues, AP. Grab your tissues. Notice she doesn't say she's a devout atheist crybaby. Let's see what she said again.
Imagined and developed over centuries. And so now I can say I am proudly of a Judeo-Christian religion.
This is why I said she's reminding me of Jordan Peterson, even though I don't know enough about Jordan. I haven't gone through all of his like Bible lectures and so on. But when she's saying we're comparing the concept of the transcendent that we've come up with over centuries, that seems to be, again, a lot of you other people who've been following Jordan Peterson and gone through all his lectures and so on will probably know a lot more about this than I do. But the little bit that I've picked up, that seems to be his view of like scripture. And so like Like the Bible is an account of human beings sort of formulating this concept of the transcendent over centuries and so on, and so it's like a record, and so it's not true in the way your average Christian would say. It's true in a different sense. It's so it's something like that. But yeah, I don't know. She's just reminding me of stuff I picked up from Jordan Peterson over the century, and it might just be kind of like she might be kind of switching sides from the like hostile towards religion, and these are her friends, even though she was never nearly as hostile as them, to Jordan Peterson, who is not interpreting this the way an average Christian would, but he's much more friendly to the concepts involved and so on.
I'm glad that she is more direct in her reasoning compared to Jordan Peterson, who just said, "What do you mean by God? What do you mean by do? What do you mean by you? What do you mean by believe?"
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of refreshing to see the directness and the honesty here.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Without having to waste your time about, do I really think that the world was built in 6 days? Do I really believe every word in the Bible? No. But I do believe that that's Judeo-Christian tradition, and what it has brought forth is, those are the values that I aspire to, the values by which I live. I was called a Christian by Roger Scruton in 2008, and I said, "Roger, no, I'm not a Christian." And he said, "But you act like a Christian, and you behave like a Christian, therefore you are a Christian." And I think that
that's what you can hear cackling in the background, especially when she. It's only a few more seconds long, but she's going to say the same thing about Richard Dawkins, and you can hear. I mean, I can hear it on my headphones. I don't know if everyone else can hear it, but you can hear like cackling from some of the other people up there with her. But check this out.
That's exactly what I would like to say to Richard Dawkins. It's, you act like, I've been to, choral music with him, which he enjoys very much. And he's one of the most Christian people I know. And so I think we've been having this, time-wasting debates. And, you grow up, I matured, here I am.
So
that's very interesting.
It's funny hey, I've grown up. We had these, she's like, hey, we had these childish debates about whether this is true and whether this is not true and so on. And now I've grown up, and I don't want to have the debates about is this true? Is that true? Is this true? Is that true? It's just which notice she's saying, hey, the debates, that's all a waste of time and so on. Here I'm thinking it kind of depends on the person, and she might be suffering from what we were just talking about, that people tend to think that other people think the way they do. Like me, I wouldn't be following it if I didn't believe it. I wouldn't be following if I didn't believe in God and in Jesus. I would not be following the commands of Jesus. I wouldn't do it. I don't know exactly what I'd be doing. I know what I did when I was younger. I don't know exactly what I'd be doing. Like if I stopped believing tomorrow, I don't know exactly what I'd be doing. But so my point here is, I think there are people who need to be having those debates, and other people, if that's kind of not you, okay, then you could be thinking in different ways. Let's go through a couple super chats here.
I heard a lot of people say stuff like that to me as well. I hear people say stuff like that, and the thing is, it's not just like an anecdote. It's not just a remark that you're saying that you move on from. It's like it actually helps understand what she is, the deeper thoughts that she went through before she came to this conclusion, which would seem like, okay, it doesn't really matter to her if this religion is true or not. It doesn't really matter to her if the whole, metaphysical aspect of the whole, theological, transcendental aspect of it is true or not. What matters to her is rather that beyond all of that, beyond those basic thoughts, this religion developed over a very, very long time as a foundation to the society that we are right now. We are standing on that solid foundation. And she looks down and she sees the foundation. She appreciates it very much. And seeing that, she now values it. She has an attachment to it, and she wants to have loyalty to it, and she doesn't really care about the whole theological aspect of it. And I don't know. I feel like I appreciate that.
Yeah, and there are lots of Christians who are just like enraged by that. I'm thinking in terms of, I mean, do you really not? I mean, this. We have to be enraged all the time and be destroying the foundations of society and so on. And then, no, actually, I understand the significance here. So much so that now I consider myself a Christian. Like, I understand you want to, okay, here's what the Bible says about, actually becoming a Christian and so on. But she says that, she says in her article, say, I'm new to this, I'm going to church and things like that. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. You guys really not understand the concept of making progress in your thinking as far as the thing she's talking. Now, notice everything we just heard there sounds like something like you could be a total atheist and agree with everything she just said, right? You said, I don't believe in any of this, but like I've had lots of atheists say, I'm an atheist, but I'm a cultural Christian. Meaning I still adhere to a basic, Christian value framework and so on. But again, in her article, and I'm saying this because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what her position is. In her article, which we're about to look at, it comes across, especially, I mean, towards the end, it comes across as something more in terms of her and Jordan Peterson. They seem to be saying there is some sort of transcendent, and the Judeo-Christian tradition and the Bible are sort of human beings trying to figure out and wrestle with these things. And so it's like, yeah, all these propositions are not necessarily true or something like this. It sounds like they're saying there is something beyond us. There's something above us. And we're kind of wrestling. And the Christian record is kind of one record of how this group has interacted with that transcendent and so on. And then other groups went in a totally different direction, and you see what it leads to, and it's all screwed up. So something along those lines. And it seems like they're saying, and the atheist position is to reject the transcendent, and it's actually a problem because now you're denying that, and you need it. Something along those lines. But yeah, we'll check out this article. Brianna says, hi, AP, have you ever read the entire Bible? Would you ever make a video with your questions and objections to Christianity? Still praying for you. I know you've read a ton of the Bible.
Yeah, I think I've never actually read all of it through. I read lots of it. Maybe I read the majority of it, but I never did the very same thing that I did with the Quran, which is like from cover to cover reading it all through.
You never read Obadiah?
I still need to do that. I did.
Brianna here, but she also said, would you ever make a video with your questions and objections to Christianity? I'm saying, hey, guys,
I thought about that a long time ago of doing that, but I kind of feel like I want to do that once I always thought I want to do that once I am more clear on what my thoughts are, and I never found myself quite there yet.
And it sounds like you don't want to, just knowing you personally, it's like you wouldn't want to come across as like being a jerk and insulting people who aren't threatening to murder you or something like that. But it looks like people are actually legitimately interested. Like, what are your objections to Christianity? We'd like to take a look at those.
No, I'm trying to find the best way to insult people. That's why I'm kind of.
Hey, you should make a video, but you share your objections to Christianity, but you act like a Dawa guy the entire time. My problem with Christianity is you're all little weaklings.
Yeah.
Dark Brandon here says, I got into an argument with an atheist friend about Islam the other day, and no joke, at one point he said, why don't ex-Muslims, this is for you, why don't ex-Muslims call themselves ex-religious instead of ex-Muslim? Real facepalm moment. So I think this is you hear this a lot from Muslims. Why you always have to identify yourself as ex-Muslim?
Why do you think it's funny because you see the same thing with two groups in the Christian world, where people who leave two specific sects in the Christian world, they often refer to themselves as ex this, and those are Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
You will often see XJW and ex Mormon, and what do those have in common with Islam? They both have this quite outlandish, cultish way of thinking. This whole our group versus all the others, or if you change, then you have betrayed us. Things like that. They all have this kind of social pressure and social oppression, but Islam has that to a much greater, much more extreme degree. It's that can tell you something. The problem here is when you leave Christianity. Now, I know people who were Christians and who are no longer Christians, and nothing is different. Like their relationship with their family is in no way different. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. Like nothing happened ever. They acknowledge each other, and that's all. Like nobody ever even talks about it. But as Muslims, if you leave Islam, it is the end of the world. People don't talk to you anymore. People look with disgust at you. People threaten you. People actually come after you. It's like you have not only betrayed yourself and your family and all your friends, but the entire Muslim ummah. So of course this is going to be significant, and of course people are going to take that not in a great way and will fight against that. And one of the manifestations of that fight is to say, I am an ex-Muslim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is, I mean, more than any other group in the world, it makes sense to say ex-Muslim, because one of the, and I've pointed this out before, if you go back to 2005, 2006, it was very common to hear no one ever leaves Islam. That was a claim. And for those of us who were actually studying it back then, it's like, wait a minute, you had the apostate wars in early Islam after Muhammad died. You had wars from all the apostates. You have apostates during the time of Muhammad who would realize Muhammad's a false prophet and they leave Islam. And so it was just so weird to hear that claim back then, if you knew anything about the history of Islam. But notice, even we've already referenced this, between 5 and 10% of Muslims in Muslim countries are actually closeted atheists. It seems like when you're leaving Islam, now, if you leave Islam and you become a Christian, okay, I have this community out there. I have this community of Christians now. I'm part of that family. If you leave Islam and you become an atheist or something else, I mean, the point is you're part of a community, and there needs to be a community there, right? Because you're leaving one community, you need this other community, and I think that's part of people saying, "Hey, I'm ex-Muslim," and so on, is so that other people who are thinking about leaving Islam understand, "Hey, I'm not going to be alone here. I'm not going to be alone when I leave this. There's this ex-Muslim community out there," and that's why you have groups that are. All these ex-Muslim groups. And I just have to say, I mean, how many times do we hear from converts to Islam? Oh, he's a former Christian and he's a former this and he's a former that. We hear that all the time. So bunch of hypocrites.
I get so many messages. I'm still getting them. I used to get them more in the past. This is interesting to me. I'm just noticing. I used to get them more in the past, but I still get those messages from ex-Muslims who say, "Thank you so much. I thought I was the only one. I thought nobody else was leaving Islam. I thought I'm crazy. I thought I'm stupid. I was scared, and I found others, and this encouraged me." And this is a very common pattern, and this helps. Us to call us ex-Muslims to basically, I don't know, show some light to those who feel that way, because I felt that way too. I thought I was the only one.
And part of that is why the Dawah guys and lots of Muslims will criticize you announcing that you're an ex-Muslim. They want a person to think, oh, if I leave Islam, I'm giving up my family, I'm giving up my community, I'm just going to be in no man's land forever. I don't want to do this. That's going to feel really, really bad. So I'll just pretend to be a Muslim. They don't want there to be this worldwide, global ex-Muslim community out there that's going to embrace you as soon as you leave Islam. They don't want that. So they want everyone to keep their mouths shut about that. And
how about no?
Yeah. How about no? Wait, do I have that?
How about no? I don't buy your Ella.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, here you go. Miguel says, before you decide, AP, check out Haitian voodoo. It's a good option. I knew a Haitian dude. We just called him Haiti. I don't know what his actual name was in prison, but he was Haiti. And he was one of those guys who had a speech impediment where he talked like this.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah, like, so it's funny because I asked him one day, I was like, hey, is that how Haitians talk? And he goes, no, they make fun of me there too. And I was like, oh, okay. So I actually, because I didn't know anymore. I didn't know any other Haitians. So I was like, is that how Haitians talk? But he would talk about these dudes. He'd be like, man, this is voodoo dudes that live up in the jungle, and they can turn the person into an animal. And you could go up and if you give them enough money, you could tell them someone on the other side of the world, dog, and the person would just drop dead. And I was going, come on, man. I said, all right, you go give this voodoo guy my info and tell him to kill me. I want to see what happens. He goes, no, dog, you wouldn't try it on you. You're a Christian. And I was like, wait, these guys. So these guys are like, no, we don't do it. It's weird having voodoo and simultaneously thinking, oh, but it doesn't work on Christians, because you're like, okay, then there are limits to this. Like, why wouldn't you then believe in Christianity? I don't know. It's weird stuff.
That's weird.
Yeah, that is. I heard that from multiple things. I heard that from a Wiccan too. I mean, I heard it from someone who was talking to a Wiccan and said, he said, hey, I challenge you to cast a spell on me. And I had an encounter with some Wiccans while I was locked up too. But he said he went into a Wiccan shop and said, hey, I want to see if you can cast it. It wasn't like to kill him or anything. He's just saying, I want to see if you can actually cast a spell on me. And he said, the Wiccan dude said, well, are you a Christian? He goes, yeah. And he goes, it wouldn't work. I was like, wait, why do you guys believe it? I don't know.
Wiccanism is so, it's such a fake. It's like a fake attempt at being mysterious and going with these old mystical, natural ideas, but it's like totally made up. It's like modern interpretations of modern people trying to somehow have these old ideas that nobody believes in anymore.
All these tree spirits and so on.
Yeah, weirdos.
You know what this is about? Are you two going to make a response to Kim Iverson's 3 Islam videos? You know what this is about? I don't know who that is. You familiar with that?
She's this annoying. She's this woman who is on Rumble, and has been talking about this whole Israel-Palestine conflict, and she's been kind of pandering to the pro-Hamas people, and basically accusing Israel and kinds of things. And she also had a conversation with what's his name, Hamza Yusuf, where Hamza Yusuf was explained to her. I posted a reply to that on Twitter earlier today. He was saying, great, holy war doesn't exist in Islam. There's no such thing. Jihad just.
Why don't we go live with that one of these days? Because that's it's good to respond to Hamza Yusuf. I don't know what in the world he's thinking. Like, I don't know if that's one of the situations where, I don't know, does he just reject a ton of the sources we'd be familiar with, or does he know that he's lying, or is this sort of, okay, I know that people are interpreting this in a way that is completely misleading, but I'm okay with that. What are you saying?
I just noticed she had that live stream 2 days ago. It's on Rumble. I'm really underestimating Rumble and underestimating this person, but it has currently 216,000 views. So
well, you might want to go through some of that.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I'll check it out.
About Ayaan Hirsi Ali here. I wasn't expecting her to convert. I can't believe my leather strap of the anus. I tell you, everyone's just taking anything with eyes in it and replacing it.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Shalom, guys. Tuning in to learn about today's topic and support you bros with my Zionist schmeckles stolen from Farfour and his grandpa. This guy stole Farfour and his grandpa's shekels and gave them to us. That's messed up. Oh, hey, Issa's here. Issa said, "Oh, thank you, brothers." I guess that's from earlier.
See, this is what is just what is a red flag immediately. Like, I'm going through her channel right now, going through the last 1 year of videos. There is no single time that she ever talked about Islam or anything, or Israel or Palestine or anything related. But the last month is all about Islam and about Israel Palestine.
So guys, you have to. Here's the thing. This ties into what Jordan Peterson was talking about people with the dark tetrads, psychopaths, narcissists, Machiavellians, and sadists want to jump into situations to use it to their advantage. And you see the Dawa guys all do this, right? Like, notice, you can be a Dawa guy and be seriously interested in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and so on, and want to discuss that and so on. But people with certain personality types, that's not the real issue. The issue is, hey, I want to further myself and rally more support around myself in this situation, and they want to use that in any situation. They want to turn any situation into something that brings them more attention and gets them more fans. But notice the same exact thing can happen for people, just general social media influencers, right? It can just be, hey, here's something that's happening. Oh, if I say this thing, that gets me a lot more fans right now. And so this can be, I don't know. I have no idea. I've never seen her. I have no clue what her position is. I'm saying be aware of it, right? I mean, we all get this idea when you've got like, Sneeko and something like this suddenly converting to Islam and so on, that it has a lot more to do with, oh, here's a big fan base that will be loyal to me no matter what I do. And let me jump on there. But guess what? I mean, right now, I could go on and tweet, after careful consideration, and I've realized that Israel needs to be wiped out and Hamas needs to take over. I get a ton of new fans, even though they hate me for everything I've said and done for the past couple decades. I would all of a sudden get a bunch of new fans.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Ratio Christie here says, side note, in original language, Jonah was swallowed by a big fish. In the Septuagint, it can be translated to an extinct Leviathan, Hydra-like creature. Hey, we are way past the Jonah discussion. Joshua, no, that's because the message was from earlier. Joshua said, Paul said, if you're an apostate, then there's the door. Muhammad said, if anyone leaves Islam, it's their neck. AP, what are the apostate rules based on science and reason?
Death.
Yeah, I know that. That's AP's penalty for apostates.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Or re-education camps. I don't know.
Dawood, your funny teasing of your friends is very entertaining, but since you go after Muhammad so much, does that mean you're a closeted Muslim?
Oh yeah,
you get it? like hey,
yes.
Like if the people I like, I actually mess with them constantly, then I mess with Muhammad a lot constantly. So there you go.
Huh.
And polemic autist here says, AP, the thing that finally broke me and caused me to realize Christianity is true was prophecy and evidence for the resurrection. Mike Winger has an amazing series on evidence for the Bible. Have you seen it? Well, we've had our entire live stream on Mike Winger, and
I don't.
You familiar with Mike Winger stuff?
Yeah, I am. I haven't seen it though.
Okay, he hasn't seen it, and that's why he's not a Christian yet.
Yeah. See, that's the problem.
What is this? Daniel says, please, David, do the Peterson impersonation. I've said like 5,000 times, AP is now better than me.
I can't do that.
How about no? How about no, Daniel? See, that's what I mean. AP's better. Go
How
ahead.
about no?
See? It's funny. I don't think of you as an impression guy, but you're crushing that one.
Only that one.
And Sanquay here says, some say this is the final nail on the coffin of new atheism, with Hitchens dead, Dawkins, Cowd, and Harris unhinged. No one mentions Dennett. Thoughts? I mean, Dennett didn't have the same sort of personality as the rest of the guys to gain popularity. He's probably the smartest. Of them, but he didn't have the same personality to win the same number of followers.
He's a bit unpopular among people. I don't know much about him. I don't know anything about him, but I've heard a lot of criticism of him for his attitude and all of that. I don't know why. That's all I know about him.
Yeah. So we may be catching the end of the new atheism. Doesn't mean not the end of atheism, the end of that movement. Because
atheism destroyed. This is the proof.
You see, we told you, you little weaklings, that your new atheism wouldn't last. All right, let's go through this article. So we saw Ayaan Hirsi Ali talking about it, and in that video sounded completely like pragmatic and practical. What the new atheists have is not capable of standing against what's going on in the world. Christianity is, and she made some points saying that the wrong discussion is like arguing about whether all these details are true and so on. Although some of them, she's saying, why are you arguing about whether God exists or not? I don't know. That seems like an important debate to me. But she's saying you should be thinking in terms of comparing. Like, this is what this belief leads to. This is what this system leads to. This is what this system leads to. This is the best. Therefore, throw that in the faces of other people, something along those lines. But so I saw that, and then I made a quick video about it. And then the next day she posted, let's see, this.
Why I'm a Christian.
Yep. So why I am a Christian. And she deliberately paralleled that on Bertrand Russell's famous essay. So we'll go ahead and read this, and AP, you can share your thoughts as we go through this. In 2002, I discovered a 1927 lecture by Bertrand Russell. That's probably the same year I read it, because that's when I was starting off in philosophy. But yeah, it's weird. I remember reading Bertrand Russell's Why I'm Not a Christian. I thought it was lame.
I never read it, honestly.
Yeah, I read it and I was like, it's a similar, something you're more familiar with. It's a similar reaction to people who would read like Dawkins' The God Delusion and think this is actually kind of lame. There's better arguments than these, and your arguments actually aren't as they wouldn't work against people who actually know what they're talking about, and so on. And so some of this stuff sounds kind of dumb. It was kind of like that. Whereas I'm not saying that because he's an atheist or something like that. There's stuff that is absolutely brilliant in Hume. There's stuff that's really brilliant in a lot of. Antony Flew in breaking down falsifiability and so on, and explaining how you can develop a kind of non-falsifiable position. The examples he would give that kind of stick in your mind. Lots of this stuff is brilliant. But I don't know. I read Why I'm Not a Christian. I was like, gosh, this sucks. And keep in mind, this was not long after I became a Christian. So, I became a Christian in the 90s, and then in the early 2000s, I'm reading this thinking, this sucks. Anyway.
Is it better than the Quran, though?
Oh, it's like 1,000,000 times better than the Quran.
Okay, good.
With that said, I'm kind of teasing now. There are the Quran actually makes good points. I think they're being stolen from other things, but overall, and Bertrand Russell, he's a combination. One, insanely intelligent. His history of philosophy is one of the best history of philosophies there are. That's what you're expecting. Hey, you've got a brilliant guy who's also a really great writer, writing Why I'm Not a Christian. You're expecting something really awesome, and I don't know. It seemed like the same thing some second or third year philosophy student who happens to be an atheist would write. That's what it seemed like to me. And so I was expecting something much better. Anyway, in 2002, I discovered a 1927 lecture by Bertrand Russell entitled Why I Am Not a Christian. It did not cross my mind as I read it that one day, nearly a century after he delivered it to the South London branch of the National Secular Society, I would be compelled to write an essay with precisely the opposite title. And at the top, her title is Why I Am Now a Christian. The year before, I had publicly condemned the terrorist attacks of the 19 men who had hijacked passenger jets and crashed them into the Twin Towers in New York. They had done it in the name of my religion, Islam. I was a Muslim then, so she was still a Muslim after 9/11. I was a Muslim then, although not a practicing one. If I truly condemned their actions, then where did that leave me? The underlying principle that justified the attacks was religious, after all. The idea of jihad, or holy war against the infidels. Was it possible for me, as for many members of the Muslim community, simply to distance myself from the action and its horrific results? So sounds like she's saying she's had a kind of crisis here. I want to condemn this, but if this is actually from my religion, how do I then condemn it? By the way,
Yeah.
Where were you in 9/11?
I was in Germany.
Still in Germany.
Yeah.
Still in Germany, singing Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles.
Nobody sings that.
No, that was I brought it up because I'd seen it in movies before, and I was in German class. This was in college, and it was in German class, and something happened, and I was making fun of something. I was going, I would just sing Deutschland, Deutschland, and my professor, who's German, goes, We don't joke around like that. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that was serious.
Yeah, in Germany, so things were very humorous. I remember laughing about all kinds of things. Dark humor is very, very popular in Germany, but that topic, Nazi stuff, that is just no. No, we don't.
Interesting.
We don't talk about that. No.
Yeah,
joking.
I had to find out. It reminds me of there was in our church in New York. We lived in the Bronx, but we went to church in Queens. We went to New Life Fellowship in Queens. Awesome church. But I knew a Jamaican guy there, and and just from watch, I forget which Steven Seagal movie it was. I think it was Marked for Death, where it was him versus the Jamaicans, and I always ran around yelling "blood clot." And so every time I saw my Jamaican friend walking down the stairs, I go, "Hey, blood clot, man!" Right? And one day he pulled me aside and he goes, "Dude, that's like a curse word to us." I'm like, "Oh, I had no idea. I just thought it was something cool Jamaicans yelled to each other." I'm sitting there yelling it in church and stuff. Anyway, wild
No,
stuff.
the thing is, when I on 9/11, I was still very young and I was at home. I remember my mother. I think it was already late in the day. I don't know. Was it night? Was it evening? Something, because that's what it corresponded to when we were in Germany. I remember my mom like giving this reaction, was like, "Come here, come here, come here," and she seemed very worried, And I went into the living room and I was like, "What's going on?" And she said, "Look at this, look at the TV. They're attacking the towers in America." And I was looking at it. As I was looking, there was a plane flying into the building. And she said something to me that was kind of very typical, that I'd never forget, which is she immediately turned it into a conspiracy theory without knowing anything at all, without knowing any of the facts. She was like, "They're going to blame Muslims for this.
Yeah.
It's probably the Jews. They're going to blame Muslims for this, and they're going to kill a bunch of Muslims now because of this." That's what she said, and that's the mindset that I was always exposed to at home.
Yeah.
And outside among Muslims, nobody found that it's horrible. Nobody found it scary. Nobody found it bad. People were either happy about it. They either thought America deserved it, or they said, "What about all the people who die in Muslim countries?"
Yeah. And I remember that was when Nabil and I became friends and so on. And I asked him about what his what was going on with him. And he had spread an American flag across his car because he thought people were going to come and smash his car because he's the local Muslim. And he told me that his parents had told his sister, "Don't wear your hijab right now. Don't go out don't go out in your hijab so that you don't want to be identified." And so, Jason here says 33% of dark energy, 60%, 66% of dark matter, 1% detectable matter with scientists' best device we have. Why believe in evidence based on 1% only? God's real. And far 4, what a sight for a sore leather strap of the anus. I think people are looking up like every single quotation that has anything to do with eyes.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then we'll read some more of this article here. Giovanni says, harder to read with the white background. Giovanni says, "Hey, just joined in this, might be unrelated, but I want to find a way to put into perspective the logistics of what people would have to have done to corrupt the New Testament. Do you have any videos on it? God bless, especially AP." Yeah, Muslims don't tend to, when they say the New Testament's been corrupted or the Bible's been corrupted, that's not based on any sort of research or anything. I mean, in their minds, Bart Ehrman says there's lots of textual variants. Yeah, no one disputes that. It's not giving them the sort of corruption they're talking about. Textual variants are like spelling differences and things like that. You don't have anything that affects any important Christian doctrine. But yes, what you're talking about here, how would this actually happen? How would it happen? It wouldn't work. I mean, the Gospels and the books of the New Testament originally circulated as separate books, but they were shared very rapidly. So they're copied, and then you have copies that are circulating in Europe. You have copies that are circulating in Northern Africa. You have copies that are circulating in the Middle East, and so on. You didn't have any centralized authority that's capable of corrupting all these scriptures in later centuries. By the time you get to a place in history where people would have the ability to change things, the books they're spread too far. You can't do it. In other words, you can't. There was never a time where later generations would have the ability to corrupt it. Because notice, if you're, let's say in Israel, and you say, hey, I want to change this. Well, that doesn't change the copies in Egypt. That doesn't change the copies in Italy. It doesn't change those other copies. And those are the sorts of things that textual critics, if they see a difference, they'll go, aha, here's the difference right here. Nope, you don't have that difference anywhere else. So we can spot where this change occurred. So it's interesting that in Islam, you actually have a place where you could where you could corrupt scripture if you wanted. And so Uthman actually orders people to hand over their Qurans and burns them all and issues an authoritative edition of the Quran. I believe there were plenty of changes made. I don't believe it fundamentally corrupted the text of the Quran. But I have to say, if we had something like that in Christianity where one person has total control over what's being put out as far as the Bible, if we had something like that, Muslims would be pointing to that saying, you see, this is the proof that it was corrupted. We don't have anything like that. There was never a time when it could have been corrupted. In Islam, they actually do have something like that, and but they don't know about it. So
That's true. It's true.
Yep. All right, let's get back to this article here. At the time, so back at the top, there were many eminent leaders in the West, politicians, scholars, journalists, and other experts who insisted that the terrorists were motivated by reasons other than the ones they and their leader, Osama bin Laden, had articulated so clearly. So Islam had an alibi. That's funny. They articulated it so clearly and say, no, let us tell you what your real reasons are.
We are doing this for Allah. No, don't listen to them. They are doing this because of social and economic issues.
They're doing it because of climate change. Don't listen to what they tell you. This excuse-making was not only condescending towards Muslims, it also gave many Westerners a chance to retreat into denial, blaming the errors of U.S. foreign policy. Yep.
I'm sorry.
Denial is a river. Blaming the errors of U.S. foreign policy was easier than contemplating the possibility that we were confronted with a religious war. It's just easier to believe. We have seen a similar tendency in the past 5 weeks as millions of people sympathetic to the plight of Gazans seek to rationalize the October 7th terrorist attacks as a justified response to the policies of the Israeli government. That's interesting. She's pointing out that you've got the exact same thing. It's easier to blame something other than the religious motivation. When I read Russell's lecture, I found my cognitive dissonance easing. It was a relief to adopt an attitude of skepticism towards religious doctrine, discard my faith in God, and declare that no such entity existed. So it was a way out of cognitive dissonance. Best of all, I could reject the existence of hell and the danger of everlasting punishment. Russell's assertion that religion is based primarily on fear resonated with me. I had lived for too long in terror of all the gruesome punishments that awaited me. While I had abandoned all the rational reasons for believing in God, that irrational fear of hellfire still lingered. I've heard that from lots of people. I've heard that from people who've left Christianity as well, that they reject God, they reject Christianity, but they still have this ongoing fear of, gosh, I don't know what's going to happen.
I had that for a long time too, myself. Then it's somehow just faded and went away. But I think until a certain point, I also thought that what creates or motivates religion is fear. But I think, I don't know, over time, over the last years, I kind of came to the conclusion, that's where I am right now. I don't know, maybe I'll think differently in the future, that is not entirely accurate. But that, completely from a secular perspective, that religion is, and this makes me appreciate religion actually, that religion is kind of a way for humans, for civilizations to find meaning, to make sense of all the things that are going on around them. And it's actually a very a noble, and a search for wisdom, and that's something that is worth appreciating, in my opinion.
So she says that irrational fear of hellfire still lingered. Russell's conclusion thus came as something of a relief. When I die, I shall rot. See?
Yay!
Oh, matter of fact, there's a super chat that's connected to that. Hang on, let's get this one first. Joshua says, Silly Muslims somewhere see her and say if she rebelled against Hamas, then she is being paid by the IDF. No, no, we're being paid by the IDF and Mossad. Giovanni here, this connects. What is a true godless person? A person who believes in nothing, still believes they die, and there is nothing, so they go back to their creator, nothing. So there you have it. When I die, I shall rot, what Russell there said. So to understand why I became an atheist 20 years ago, so that would be 2003-ish. To understand why I became an atheist 20 years ago, you first need to understand the kind of Muslim I had been. This is why I brought up that you might be different because you were a different kind of Muslim. I was a teenager when the Muslim Brotherhood.
I was the correct kind of Muslim. Okay,
the truth. She was. Yeah, you were one of the. You were the true sect, and she's one of the 72 false sects. Yes, I can't say sects. Sects around.
Sects. Be careful what you say.
I was a teenager when the Muslim Brotherhood penetrated my community in Nairobi, Kenya in 1985. I don't think I had even understood religious practice before the coming of the Brotherhood. I had endured the rituals of ablutions, prayers, and fasting as tedious and pointless. This actually gets, I remember this gets interesting, her breaking down what the Brotherhood does. The preachers of the Muslim Brotherhood changed this. They articulated a direction, the straight path, a purpose to work towards admission into Allah's paradise after death, a method, the Prophet's instruction manual of do's and don'ts, the halal and the haram. As a detailed supplement to the Quran, the Hadith spelled out how to put into practice the difference between right and wrong, good and evil, God and the devil. The Brotherhood preachers left nothing to the imagination. They gave us a choice. Strive to live by the Prophet's manual and reap the glorious rewards in the hereafter. On this earth, meanwhile, the greatest achievement possible was to die as a martyr for the sake of Allah. That sounds like what I read in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and so on. What is this? The alternative, indulging in the pleasures of the world, was to earn Allah's wrath and be condemned to an eternal life in hellfire. Some of the worldly pleasures they were decrying included reading novels, listening to music, dancing, and going to the cinema, all of which I was ashamed to admit that I adored. The most striking quality of the Muslim Brotherhood, here we go. The most striking quality of the Muslim Brotherhood was their ability to transform me and my fellow teenagers from passive believers into activists almost overnight. We didn't, and the reason I said this is interesting is because this is similar to Dawah, and we have a perspective here in the West of, hey, you know, I've got Muslim friends and I get along with Muslims and all these nice Muslims, and not realizing, according to lots of people, a perfectly nice Muslim could be radicalized fairly easy by, keep in mind, I'm not saying any Muslim can be radicalized or turned violent. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying there are lots of people who are just going and living their lives as Muslims, not thinking about things, who could have a dawah guy or a jihadi or something jump in all of a sudden and say, hey, do you believe this? Do you actually believe this? You're living your life just like a Westerner. Do you actually believe that Islam is true? Yes, I believe it. Okay, well, let's look at what Muhammad actually commanded. Are you living like this? No, I'm not. And some of those will say, look, man, I'm not interested in this. I'm just going to go ahead and live my life as a Muslim and go to school and get a job and so on. But there are plenty of people who go, wow, gosh, yes, if I do believe this, I do need to take it seriously. And then you get a different sort of person. Yeah. And this is why you can have a group like ISIS forms, and they can put out the call, and you have people from the United States, Canada, France, Germany, the UK, all flooding into Iraq to join that group. Pretty easy to do. So anyway, she says, the Muslim Brotherhood has this ability to turn believers into activists almost overnight. We didn't just say things or pray for things, we did things. As girls, we donned the burqa and swore off Western fashion and makeup. The boys cultivated their facial hair to the greatest extent possible. They wore the white dress-like taub worn in Arab countries, or had their trousers shortened above the ankle bones. or strip naked like Muhammad Hijab, the part-time stripper. We operated in groups and volunteered our services in charity to the poor, the old, the disabled, and the weak. We urged fellow Muslims to pray and demanded that non-Muslims convert to Islam. During Islamic study sessions, we shared with the preacher in charge of the session our worries. For instance, what should we do about the friends we loved and felt loyal to, but who refused to accept our dawah, invitation to the faith? In response, we were reminded repeatedly about the clarity of the Prophet's instructions. We were told in no uncertain terms that we could not be loyal to Allah and Muhammad while also maintaining friendships and loyalty towards the unbelievers. If they explicitly rejected our summons to Islam, we were to hate and curse them. And I have to say that is the perspective you get from the Quran. Hey, Tom Holland. Humanism is a heresy. Oh, I got to read that. Yeah, there's a suggested reading there. Interesting.
That's
Here,
nice.
you see this? All you humanists who are watching, it's a heresy.
Shame on you.
Bunch of dopes. Anyway,
Hey, did you see this? Did you see this video from earlier today? Which is, it shows, it's actually funny. It's on the scene interview by Al Jazeera. They captured this guy. They caught this guy in Gaza who is fleeing south through the safe corridor provided by the IDF, and he's yelling and he says,
was he the one talking trash?
The Arabs. He said, "It's the Arabs' fault. The Arabs are the ones who are conspiring. The Arabs are the ones who betray us. The Jews are kind to us." That's what he said. He said those words. I mean, it's one thing to say. It's one thing for someone to say, "This is all our own people have done this to us. Our Arabs have done this to us." But for somebody in Gaza to actually look into the camera, to Al Jazeera, and to say the Jews are kind to us,
no, that's crazy. Because if that guy is ever in a place like the Israelis need to get that dude out of there and keep him safe, because you'll get killed for that sort of thing, and that's part of it, right? You're not allowed to say anything. So that's a guy who understands. I'm putting my life on the line to say this right now, but I have to say
it has. I mean, just the one I'm looking at has 2 million views right now. It's like it's going viral in the best way possible, and it's so significant because hearing a Gazan actually say that, like, the Arabs are doing this stuff to us, the Jews who are coming here are nice to us. Him saying that, this is, I don't know, I've never heard like such a candid, thing from a Gazan himself right here on camera to Al Jazeera. The Arab world sees this.
Yeah, and you wonder, I mean, how hard is that to understand, right? You do have plenty of Palestinians who just want to live their lives and see their kids go to school and get work, and that people want to retire and live their lives without being bombed and so on. And then you've got a group like Hamas that deliberately attacks Israel, knowing that there's going to be a thing. Then they all hide, except for the ones who are extremely rich, and they're in completely different countries. And then who gets bombed? The regular people, while Israel's going after Hamas. And it doesn't take a genius to sit back and figure out and say, we're just pawns in these guys' game. We do not want this. They are using us they're using us as meat shields. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
Jeff Derbla says, somewhere IP, Inspiring Philosophy, is yelling at the screen. 6 days? It's funny that Ayaan Hirsi Ali zeroed in on that as a important issue. Important issue that important not to bring up that issue. My definition of hell is waking up there to meet Dawkins saying it's all an illusion from aliens for eternity. That's funny because he said no matter what the evidence, any evidence could be described as powerful aliens or something like that. But it would be interesting because Peter Atkins actually said something like that. He said, if I actually woke up and I'm outside the pearly gates in St. Peter's, I still wouldn't believe any of it. I still wouldn't believe it. I believe there's something else going on, some sort of weird hallucination.
Alhamdulillah, he's a very devout atheist.
Don't have to believe the Nicene Creed to be Christian. Richard says Jesus spoke principles of spiritual wisdom and corrected and warned of corruptions of organized religion then and now. And we talked, was it yesterday? We talked about different Jewish perspectives on Jesus. And I met Jews in Israel who have this view of Jesus. They don't believe in him as the Messiah and so on. They believe in him as someone who called out corruption in religion. And I was talking to a guy who said, yeah, Jesus won. Jesus won. He said, we don't have that anymore. He goes, back then, it would have been a big deal. Someone's sick on the Sabbath. Do you actually help the person? Because that's work. And he says, now that's not an issue now. He says, no. If someone injures himself and gets injured on the Sabbath, there's no one's going to say, hey, the ambulance shouldn't help that person and so on. So he's saying, Jesus way won.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Right.
I heard Jews say that I heard some Jewish perspectives that he was one of the people who wanted to help save Jews from the oppression they are under and things like that. I mean, there are different views, like secular views, religious views, and things like that. But some of the ideas that are often propagated by these very Jew-hating people, that they hate Jesus and all of that, that's nonsense. That's unfounded.
Humera says, is there a documented / published code of conduct or charter that atheists follow? I would have to say no. If you adopt a more specific position like secular humanism or something like that, then yes, if you can subscribe to a specific document. Anything you want to say on that, AP?
There's the atheist Quran, of course, which I follow.
Yeah, where's your atheist charter?
I didn't write it yet. I need to get to that.
Let's see. You guys are melting people's brains. Loving it. Interesting. We're melting brains. It's what we do. All right.
I do that literally at night. That's what I do. That's how I spend my days and nights. So, yeah.
All right. Back to this article here in the middle. Here, a special hatred was reserved for one subset of unbeliever, the Jew. We cursed the Jews multiple times a day and expressed horror, disgust, and anger at the litany of offenses he had allegedly committed. The Jew had betrayed our prophet. He had occupied the holy mosque in Jerusalem. He continued to spread corruption of the heart, mind, and soul. You can see why, to someone who had been through such a religious schooling, atheism seemed so appealing. Bertrand Russell offered a simple, zero-cost escape from an unbearable life of self-denial and harassment of other people. For him, there was no credible case for the existence of God. Religion, Russell argued, was rooted in fear. Fear is the basis of the whole thing. Fear of the mysterious, fear of defeat, fear of death. As an atheist, I thought I would lose that fear. I also found an entirely new circle of friends, as different from the preachers of the Muslim Brotherhood as one could imagine. The more time I spent with them, people such as Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, the more confident I felt that I had made the right choice. For the atheists were clever. They were also a great deal of fun. What? What could be more fun than the Muslim Brotherhood? So what changed? Why do I call myself a Christian now? That's what we're all asking. Part of the answer is global. So, notice she's breaking down the answer into parts. Part of the answer is global. Western civilization is under threat from three different but related forces. The resurgence of great power authoritarianism and expansionism in the forms of the Chinese Communist Party and Vladimir Putin's Russia. So you have, it is just common today. Not as common right now, but if you go back 15 years, what are you talking about, man? The world has moved past all this, empires and people crushing. No, that's not what happened. What actually happened was there are people in different parts of the world who still want to conquer the world. They just happen to be scared of the United States. And then once the United States starts getting weak, people smell blood and they smell weakness. And then they say, okay, now's the time. And you have a bunch of forces, very powerful forces, who would love to eat you alive. And they were just waiting for weakness. Now they're seeing weakness. And so now you're getting some of it. But Communist Party.
The thing is, after the First World War, which they didn't call the First World War then, they called it the Great War, or I think the war to end all wars. I don't know when they started
last one.
that. But they thought this is it. This is going to be it. It's going to be over. After this, we move on to a more rational, reasonable world. There will be peace. There will be no more war. And they genuinely thought they moved on from that world. And then, boom, Second World War comes with the Nazis. But yeah, so we have quite a phase of peace right now. But Putin is a good point. Putin did come out when he declared war on Ukraine, when he declared the invasion. He repeated some very old ideas of how lands like Ukraine and others belonged to Russia at some point and are still rightfully part of Russia, and that Russia must make sure to reintegrate those parts that were lost. And this is just the beginning of a very imperialist campaign. So I don't know, things don't look very nice.
No, and I think a bunch of people are about to wake up to reality.
Yeah,
because there are a bunch of groups out there that would love to eat you alive. So she lists here: Chinese Communist Party, Vladimir Putin's Russia, the rise of global Islamism, which threatens to mobilize a vast population against the West, and the viral spread of woke ideology, which is eating into the moral fiber of the next generation. And what's really creepy is how these groups will combine. Notice you'll have communists and Muslims and woke people marching side by side on college campuses. So you can get some pretty weird alliances.
Combination. The dumbest
It's absolutely. They cannot coexist except as a temporary alliance to attack someone else.
Yeah. It's only the woke side is dumb enough to believe that that things are all cute and wonderful, and it's all going to work out. The Muslims are very well aware that they want nothing to do with them once they get what they want.
Yep. So, they view them as useful idiots.
Yes, precisely.
Yep. We endeavor to fend off these threats. Oh, here we go. We endeavor to fend off these threats with modern, secular tools, military, economic, diplomatic, and technological efforts to defeat, bribe, persuade, appease, or surveil. And yet, with every round of conflict, we find ourselves losing ground. We are either running out of money with our national debt in the tens of trillions of dollars, or we are losing our lead in the technological race with China. Point is, the advantages you had that gave you this confidence in peace, you're losing those advantages over time.
I think that's not entirely realistic. That's a misconception. I've seen lots of expert view on that, on how China is not really a great threat in terms of development. They might have like market influence in the world, but they're not really creating anything.
No, I'm thinking in terms of long term. The point is, if you owe trillions and trillions of dollars to someone, you're basically paying the interest and you're feeding them money. And so I'm thinking like down the road, they are just going to get more and more powerful. As far as like militarily, I mean, United States still wouldn't have any problem with any of these things. The point
generations ahead, yeah.
But we can't fight off these formidable forces unless we can answer the question, what is it that unites us? The response that God is dead seems insufficient. So, too, does the attempt to find solace in the rules-based liberal international order. The only credible answer, I believe, lies in our desire to uphold the legacy of the Judeo-Christian tradition.
I get very triggered when I hear that Nietzsche is being dissed here indirectly.
Yeah, I know.
I'm very, very triggered here.
Yeah. Just try to hold in your tears for a couple more minutes. So the standard, what's available to atheists and to liberals and so on, as far as thinking that they can stand against it, she's saying it's not enough. You're not going to do it. That legacy consists of an elaborate set of ideas and institutions designed to safeguard human life, freedom, and dignity, from the nation state and the rule of law to the institutions of science, health, and learning. As Tom Holland has shown in his marvelous book, Dominion, all sorts of apparently secular freedoms of the market, of conscience, and of the press find their roots in Christianity. And I think Holland's an atheist, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
pretty sure as far as the latest, I think he's an atheist.
Yeah. And so I have come to realize that Russell and my atheist...
Yeah, pretty sure, yeah.
And so I have come to realize that Russell... What the heck is wrong with you, man? You see this? You see what it's like trying to do anything with an atheist? This is why you guys can't stand against communism and Islam.
Go ahead.
And so I've come to realize that Russell and my atheist friends failed to see the wood for the trees. The wood is the civilization built on the Judeo-Christian tradition. It is the story of the West, warts and all. Russell's critique of those contradictions in Christian doctrine is serious, but it is also too narrow in scope. For instance, he gave... Oh, interesting. She's pointing out a situation that lots of the new atheists haven't seemed to grasp, that they're kind of in this position because they're standing on the shoulders of others that came long before them. But she says, for instance, he gave his lecture, again, this is a century ago, he gave his lecture in a room full of former or at least doubting Christians in a Christian country. Think about how unique that was nearly a century ago and how rare it still is in non-Western civilizations. Could a Muslim philosopher stand before any audience in a Muslim country, then or now, and deliver a lecture with the title, Why I Am Not a Muslim? In fact, a book with that title does exist, written by an ex-Muslim, but the author published it in America under the pseudonym Ibn Warraq. It would have been too dangerous to do otherwise. So even in the West, you're still in danger from writing a book saying why you're not a Muslim.
Alhamdulillah.
To me, this freedom of conscience and speech is perhaps the greatest benefit of Western civilization. It does not come naturally to man. Oh, that's interesting, right? That's kind of the problem. People are thinking, this is how things have been my entire life, so this is what's natural. This is just naturally the way human beings are. Yeah. And we have that same idea. It always leads to disaster, but it's the idea behind, if we just go over the Middle East, and what's the problem there? Oh, Saddam Hussein. We'll just get rid of Saddam Hussein, and then all the freedom-loving people who just do what comes naturally, and that's to seek freedom of conscience and all this other stuff, that will rise to the surface and get a great democracy. What did you actually get? ISIS. You giant morons. People don't think. Yeah, so anyway, what seems natural to you is because you are in a certain environment. It is not natural. It is not normal. It takes a long time to get something like this, and everyone's trying to destroy it. Everyone's trying to destroy it, and you don't realize, hey, if you happen to destroy it, it's going to be a long, difficult road to get it back.
There was a time that I watched a movie with my wife. I think that was when I just came to America.
You ain't watching a movie, man. Come on.
Yeah, and it was a Bill Murray movie. I don't entirely remember what it was called, but after I watched that movie, I felt unreasonably angry at the stupidity or at the naivety of people, and of Western people in this case. And the movie, I don't remember what it was called, but the premise is that I think it was him. It was Bill Murray, but he goes to Afghanistan to find some talents for some music thing.
That's Rock the Casbah.
Yes, exactly that one. That one.
I haven't seen it, but I remember the trailer for it.
Yeah, and he goes there, and then he goes through this whole trouble with this girl who can sing very well, but of course her family doesn't allow it. They are hardcore, and they are totally against a woman putting herself out there and singing and all of that. But then of course he somehow teaches them, in a way, compassion. I don't know, whatever happens, I forgot the entire plot, but the end result of it is that somehow after her father sees his daughter sing on TV, he comes around, gets emotional, and is like, yep. Okay, I accept this. Mm-hmm. And basically the idea of the whole thing is, in the end we are all the same, and you just need to be shown, this the
That's why you just need a pen pal.
I watched that movie and I thought, how stupid, how dumb is this, man? These people have no clue what's going on in other parts of the world. Like this guy would be killed.
Yeah, and it just sucks because movies like that do nothing to persuade the Taliban or anything else. It just lulls Westerners into thinking, all you have to do is get the girl on stage, and her family's not going to kill her at all.
Yeah, man.
Welcome to Fantasyland. A couple super chats here. Genetic entropy and the mystery of the genome. Worth your time. The leather strap of Sauron's anus is watching Sauron's. Atheists get hung up on knowing versus believing. Faith is believing despite not knowing. Not quite. We should have IP on to discuss what faith in the Bible means. David, could you summarize why you decided to start this channel after giving up your other channel? I've explained it like 9 billion times, but quick answer. My other channel had become virtually useless because I was getting between 1 and 3 strikes per month. I was winning all of them, but sometimes it would take weeks to win, and I'm repeatedly banned, all for fault. So anyway, my channel had become a target for people at YouTube. And I sat back and realized, do I want to continue arguing with YouTube weeks at a time to get my channel back up? Or would I rather delete that content, give it away, and start over where they're not targeting me? And so here we are. Am I banned? No. I've gotten 0 strikes.
So what did you decide then? You decided to just not
and
do it?
notice even with the subscriber difference, I get pretty much the same number of views on my videos as I used to on my old channel. So
Yeah.
this is my plan for this channel that you're watching right now is disposable. The moment they start coming after me and start giving me bogus false strikes, I'm giving it away and starting another one.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm just sticking and moving. It's more it's the internet parallel to guerrilla warfare. Just be smaller and move around more.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that helps. And AP, what's your top 3 favorite Bible books? D would too.
I'm not sure if I can list top 3, but my favorite is Ecclesiastes. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Just the way it starts, it's like it got me.
Powerful.
It sucked me in immediately.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that's George Orwell had his. Gosh, where was that? Was it in Politics in the English Language? He wrote an essay and he was comparing how he had a passage from Ecclesiastes about that the race is not to the swift nor victory to the strong and so on, but time and chance happen to them all. But he had this quote from Ecclesiastes, and then he says, "This is how a politician would say the same thing today." And it was a bunch of verbose gibberish and so on that would kind of make the same point, but would be completely incomprehensible to everyone. And anyway, pretty cool.
Yeah, but I think I read Ecclesiastes. It's funny because I never read the whole Bible, from beginning to end. But I think I read Ecclesiastes many times and also listened to it many times just to take it in, to understand it further, to just get those parts about everything is futile and all of that again and again. But yeah, no, that is my favorite. I'm not sure if I can.
Meaningless. Yeah, that should be the mantra of the atheist. Meaningless. Everything is meaningless.
Yeah.
It's all chasing after the wind. Mr. L, I forgot my favorite books. Yeah, I don't know. I like books. I like various books for different reasons. Like I could like the Gospel of Mark because it's like fast paced. It's all action based. I could like John because it's the Gospel of John. Yeah, I don't know if I have favorite books. Mr. L here says XXX Jehovah's Witness. Is that a porn Jehovah's Witness? I guess because XXX. You keep saying XXX stuff. XXX Muslim.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Yeah.
Very, very helpful and insightful. You guys familiar with with Messianic Jews? They became a bit more common here in Israel. Their obvious scripted ad stories keep trying to convert Yahushua. I mean, Michael Brown's pretty famous. And then you have One for Israel. We've watched a couple of their videos on people becoming Christians and so on.
Never heard of Messianic Jews.
Tamara says, secularism/atheism and guys like AP are Europe's best chance for stopping Islamization, as Christians tend to be more tolerant of a religious expression as a whole. I don't think so. I think that's kind of surface. I think that is a kind of surface level understand. Again, say what you want. Say what you want about Christians. For 14 centuries, Christians said, whatever disagreements we may have, whatever fights we may have among ourselves, we are not under any circumstances going to be controlled by that ever. And then you have the rise of secularism recently, and it's like, hey, we can't invite in Islam fast enough. We love it. And so That's kind of the point that Ayaan is making. It's like you would think, oh yeah, secularism and so on, that's going to stand against Islam. And she's saying, no, there's some deeper issues here. You do not see how these things are connected to one another, and it's not going to stand against it. And you would be
There is a problem though. There is a problem, which is when you speak about America, yeah, it's obviously the Christian part of the society is more the one that is, that will reject that whole Islamic influence, whereas the secular side is more open. But the issue is it gets a little bit difficult and a little bit more complicated and a little bit more cloudy when you go to Europe, when you go to countries like Germany, for example. In Germany, it is the Christian party, the regular mainstream conservative Christian part of the nation, that is the one that was in charge of the country for nearly 20 years. Angela Merkel, she was the head of the Christian party, and it was under that Christian party that people were repeatedly told not to be Islamophobic, they were told to be loving and accepting of Islam and Muslims and differences and stuff like that. And it was actually the non-religious, or atheistic or secularist far right that has been consistently getting up and marching in the streets and saying, we don't want this anymore, stop with this nonsense. So things get a little bit blurry when you go across lines and look into Europe, because really the major party, the government, was the Christian Democratic Union, or the Christian Social Union. And those were the ones who
but my point is, like, all of the governments are secular. Like even the Christian parties in these countries seem really, I don't know, secular to me. I don't know. Like they all seem like varieties of secularism now.
Kind of, yeah.
Maybe. So that's so we're I'm not talking about like a more, because again, I mean, 14 centuries do not let this ideology in. All of a sudden, now we have to. And I think I don't know. I mean, it just seems like on a kind of surface level, some, you could argue this or that or something, but on a deeper level, I don't know. It just seems like secularism has not been able to stand against much of anything. I don't know.
That's true.
And I'm saying that as someone, like, I kind of like a secular society in the sense of a government that is not telling you what to do. A government that is not telling you what to do, what to believe, what to think, and so on. I kind of prefer that. I kind of like a government that lets us do it. Hey, let us argue about this stuff and let us figure this stuff out. But I don't know. You can kind of just look at the results. And again, this is something Dawkins noticed. When he said, I think Christianity may have been protecting us against something worse than Christianity. But I guess we're about to find out, aren't we?
Inshallah.
And here we have, did you check out the sow? What the heck is the sow? It says, did you check out the sow? I don't know what that means.
I didn't.
I did not check out the sow.
I didn't have the chance yet. No.
David, set up a channel membership so I can automate paying you jizya every month. Also, when is Imam Al-Safat making his debut? I don't know. I have to come up with a bunch of jokes that actually work with Imam Al-Safat.
What, you don't have memberships on your channel yet?
No, I haven't put them up. I could. Yeah. Just wanted to say I appreciate you guys. God bless. Thank you. You guys should check out Senior Pello. I'm familiar with that. Technically, you can't get rid of atheistism because it is having no belief of the transcendent. But to some extent, you have to want to be Christian to follow Christ. Yeah, and that's why I think you're going to get atheists. There's going to be a trend towards atheists being more friendly towards Christianity. But it's going to be interesting what that is, because you'll have a bunch of atheists who, I mean, you can even have people who don't believe in it who are nevertheless, okay, I have to go to church because I have to support Christianity. That kind of sounds like what Ayaan is at. Again, although, let's get through this article, because then we'll see what she's actually saying.
Inshallah.
To me, this freedom of conscience and speech is perhaps the greatest benefit of Western civilization. It does not come naturally to man. It is the product of centuries of debate within Jewish and Christian communities. It was these debates that advanced science and reason, diminished cruelty, suppressed superstitions, and built institutions to order and protect life while guaranteeing freedom to as many people as possible. Unlike Islam, Christianity outgrew its dogmatic stage. It became increasingly clear that Christ's teaching implied not only a circumscribed role for religion as something separate from politics, it also implied compassion for the sinner and humility for the believer. Yeah.
I bet IP would love this part.
I bet AP needs some humility for the believer. Yet I would not be truthful if I attributed my embrace. Oh, here we go. Yet I would not be truthful if I attributed my embrace of Christianity solely to the realization that atheism is too weak. You're weak!
Weakling!
Ayaan Hirsi Ali called you weak, you pathetic little weaklings. My realization that atheism is too weak and stupid and cowardly and divisive a doctrine to fortify us against our menacing foes. I have also turned to Christianity because I ultimately found life without any spiritual solace unendurable. Indeed, very nearly self-destructive. Atheism failed to answer a simple question: what is the meaning and purpose of life?
That's very interesting because I feel like I was there many years ago, but I haven't really felt that in a very long time. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, but no, atheism can answer that. The answer is none. There's none. There's no meaning. There's no purpose. So shut up.
The answer is how about no?
So shut up
How
or
about
we'll
no meaning?
Yeah. So shut up or we'll line you up against walls and massacre you.
Yeah, I want to be killed.
Hey. What do you think about that? Russell and other activist atheists believed that with the rejection of God, we would enter an age of reason and intelligent humanism. Yeah, that's what I've been saying for a while. They thought that, like, it's a failed experiment. But the God hole, the void left by the retreat of the church. You remember Always Sunny when Dennis was talking about his God hole? there was an episode where he starts talking.
What was that?
That's why I don't even remember it. I just remember, like, I like shows that are equal opportunity. Like they'll mess with Christians, but then they'll mess with atheists, and then they'll mess with Muslims, and they're kind of equal opportunity. But Dennis is talking about just how empty he is inside. He goes, "It's like I've got this hole inside me. I call it my God hole." He's saying like exactly this.
That's my favorite show, man. I love that show.
The void left by the retreat of the church has merely been filled by a jumble of irrational quasi-religious dogma. The result is a world where modern cults prey on the dislocated masses, offering them spurious reasons for being and action, mostly by engaging in virtue signaling theater on behalf of a victimized minority of our supposedly doomed planet. The line often, my goodness, she's quoting G.K. Chesterton. The line often attributed to G.K. Chesterton has turned into a prophecy. When men choose not to believe in God, they do not thereafter believe in nothing. They then become capable of believing in anything, which is why AP will believe absolutely anything, no matter how dumb it is.
Yeah, that's what I do. I believe anything I see.
Yeah. You're the ear. AP is the ear. In this nihilistic vacuum, the challenge before us becomes civilizational. We can't withstand China, Russia, and Iran if we can't explain to our populations why it matters that we do. We can't fight woke ideology if we can't defend the civilization that is determined to destroy. And we can't counter Islamism with purely secular tools. To win the hearts and minds of Muslims here in the West, we have to offer them something more than videos on TikTok.
What about video games?
So
haven't thought of that.
Oh, we're almost done here. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Let's see, 2 more paragraphs. The lesson I learned from my years with the Muslim Brotherhood was the power of a unifying story embedded in the foundational texts of Islam to attract, engage, and mobilize the Muslim masses. Unless we offer something as meaningful, I fear the erosion of our civilization will continue. Unfortunately, there is no need to look for some new age concoction of medication and mindfulness. Christianity has it all. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? You hear that, AP? Christianity has it all. You don't need some weird new age concoction, cocktail of silliness. Christianity has it all. What are you grinning at? That is why I no longer consider myself a Muslim apostate, but a lapsed atheist. Of course, I still have a great deal to learn about Christianity. I discover a little more at church each Sunday. Aha! So she goes to church. See that? But no, she's just saying she just wants to protect herself from communism. But I have recognized in my own long journey through a wilderness of fear and self-doubt that there is a better way to manage the challenges of existence than either Islam or unbelief had to offer.
Alhamdulillah.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Now here is where my problem is with all of this.
Okay, negative AP again. Tell us why you hate everyone who disagrees with you. Go ahead.
It is actually, well, I'm actually going to give credit and acknowledge that there is one thing that where I see where she's coming from. So I said earlier, for example, that I haven't felt that whole emptiness and that whole nothing can replace that lack of meaning. I haven't felt that in a long time.
I'm the atheist without a God hole. Yeah, right.
I haven't felt it in a long time, but I feel like what made that what helped me get over that very much was engaging deeply with certain philosophers and with certain ideas such as Nietzsche, Albert Camus, and also I would say to an extent even Schopenhauer, and that actually kind of punched me in the face. But I feel like over the years I kind of came to this whole conclusion.
You picked the worst possible. Like if I were to make a list, the absolute worst. Well, my goodness! All right,
no, I didn't even take anything from what Schopenhauer actively teaches, but rather from his insights about the whole the how humans function and what they are motivated by and all that. I thought, this is really profound. It is really depressing. It makes me want to kill myself. But
that's what I was thinking. Well, it's like everyone you just named.
but there's something really profound there.
You've pointed out that the takeaway from Nietzsche isn't necessarily a nihilism or something like that, but the takeaway of kind of his life is, right? You look at it, like the whole thing was like, oh my goodness, are you joking?
No, actually, no. From Nietzsche, what I got from Nietzsche was actually very, very interesting. I thought, wow, nice, okay, cool. But Schopenhauer is the one that made me think, what's even the point? Why don't I just go die? But the thing is,
and then Camus, giant thing where the guy turns into a cockroach.
him too. But one thing that they all highlight in one way or another, especially Camus, is okay. So Schopenhauer highlights one thing, which is that everything is eventually meaningless. It's like all living beings, all organisms, they are all just existing, just looking to exist, and just spending their entire existence consuming each other. But the dark truth beneath all of that is that this just goes on forever and ever, and everything we do in life is all a sweetened illusion, and at the root of all of it is just continue existing and consume anything else that is there, continue existing and consume anything else, and that is depressing.
By the way, that's actually what Bertrand Russell sounded like, and he had this same kind of like dual life without spotting the tension that we find in like Dawkins, when Dawkins is like, the universe is obviously at the bottom. There is nothing. There's no good, bad, right, wrong, anything. And there's no concern or anything. It's all just, but we need to go out and live and make the world a better place. And so it's like, wait a minute. But Bertrand Russell said that like no philosophy that is not grounded on like despair can hope to survive and so on. It was a horrible misery. Hey, what's funny? I don't know why I remember this, but So this was probably, I don't know, 2003, 2004. I'm in a philosophy class, and the topic is Schopenhauer. And I wrote down, the beginning of a poem popped into my head. And I wrote, I died 11 deaths today while waiting for my 12th. Then spent an hour with Schopenhauer. We're drinking to my health. And I realized it was like this pathetic, die. We're all going to die. It's all right. Anyway,
That's very nice. Well, he was also a very depressed guy, and he thought everything we do in life is basically like, but we don't even love each other. It's like we're just telling ourselves to love each other because we think that's a means to, we somehow have to endure that. Anyway, but what actually made me kind of feel better about everything was Camus, when he talks about how he says basically that humans are caught in this endless struggle and torture of finding the meaning of life, and they get upset over and over again because they can't properly find the meaning in life, and they argue about what that meaning in life is, when in reality they are too afraid to simply face the fact that there is no such thing as a meaning of life. And he doesn't say there is no meaning of life. He says there is no such thing as a meaning of life. So looking for that non-existent thing, or saying there is no meaning or there is a meaning, but what is it? All of it is just a constant struggle that causes nothing but pain and suffering. And of course, you can then add to that whatever you take from it. But that kind of helped me get to a certain point where I thought, hey, you know what? That makes sense. The whole discussions of, so what is then the meaning of life? If you spend your entire life arguing about that and looking for that seems like that seems like a quite painful and agonizing thing to torture yourself with, especially once you have lost faith in an afterlife or in a creation or in an ultimate meaning of life. That is a very, very, very torturous, a very agonizing thing. But simply doing what that guy suggests, for example, and saying, hey, you know what? I don't have to look for it. I don't have to find it. Why would I try to find something that never existed? Is probably more of a relief than doing the opposite. I don't know, but along those lines, this is like a long, endless hole that we would have to dive into and go on forever. But kind of that built something, that built something that gave me relief from that emptiness that she describes in that article, for example.
And so there you have AP's answer to what do you do with this God-shaped hole that is within every one of us. He says, just fill it up with an endless supply of Schopenhauer and other depressing tales.
I'm serious. When I first got into Schopenhauer, I thought, why did I do this? Why did I even read this? It's kind of messed up.
Hey, here's an interesting point. Matter of fact, we should probably go through these rapid fire here. Does God exist? Not only is useless discussion, but counterproductive as well, as it happens only where it's allowed. Surely not in Islamic lands. So they're pointing out, hey, you guys are arguing about this. Meanwhile, the jihadis aren't allowed to argue about it, and they'll chop your head off for arguing about it. Yeah. Therefore, it's you're arguing about it while they're going to come and get you.
Did I just hear you suggest God doesn't exist? How dare you? I will kill you.
Beatrice says, T-Wood, there's a thing called Macumba. Sadly, it's popular in BR, Britain. Funny thing, or Bundesrepublik.
Brazil?
Bundesrepublik Deutschland. Funny
Brazil.
thing, I've also heard some followers saying the best way to get rid of a spirit if they... maybe this was from earlier when we were talking about voodoo and stuff. Funny thing, I've heard some followers saying the best way to get rid of a spirit if they can't handle it is going to a Catholic church. Yeah, I think that's tying into earlier when we were talking about voodoo and stuff, and people not... I mean, the people who practice it actually saying it doesn't work on Christians.
Yeah, I'm reading about it right now. Macumba is various religions of African diaspora found in Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay.
Brazil.
Witchcraft, black magic. Okay.
Yeah. Vincia says, thus only serving to cast doubts against Western's set of values and weakening the awareness of its cultural importance where it is most needed. I think this was a follow-up to the comment about we're sitting here arguing about the existence of God and jihadis aren't. Joshua says, no one can out-Trump Trump, but AP's Jordan Peterson is better than the real Jordan Peterson. And David, your video about Hatun Tash is gold. I don't know which Hatun that video that was, but...
Which Hatun?
Yeah, I know which Hatun it is, but... Samuel said, I watched a video by Dawkins, and he made it seem like believing in a young Earth was the worst sin. D. Wood, do you have any position on the Earth's age? No, I don't. I would definitely lean in the direction of... I would lean strongly away from young Earth. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't... I tend not to rule things out unless I actually study them a lot, and I haven't. But you would have to have some really awesome evidence for me to think that the Earth is like 10,000 years old or something like that.
That's very based.
I'm based. Hi AP. I wanted to ask what Muslims think about. Oh, but I did want to say, yeah, it's not like acting like it's the worst possible. Which is why Ayaan is bringing it up as, hey, you shouldn't have this debate about the. It's like. The new atheists kind of made this a huge issue. It has been a big issue for Christians, but yeah, it's like, suppose someone believes in a young Earth, like what's the world going to end or something like that?
How dare you believe in it?
Things are going to fall apart. He's not going to be able to perform his job because he believes in young Earth or something like that. Yeah, so don't think some of these things are nearly as bad as like you pointed out. Hey, for Dawkins, it's like the worst possible thing you could do. Hey, this guy mass murdered 10,000 people. Oh, okay, well, that guy over there, he believes the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Unacceptable.
Hi, AP. I wanted to ask what Muslims think about Judeo-Christians being far more advanced than them in science, culture, and economy, and how they reconcile that with them having the greatest religion. We've actually talked about that a bit because Douglas Murray has commented on the inferiority complex they get. But yeah, what would your quick response be?
There is a big inferiority complex that you can see constantly, even in when they attack me, for example. When they attack ex-Muslims, they always go this thing like, you are trying to be like white people, you are bootlicker, because to them it is incomprehensible. It is not possible that we are that we consider ourselves just equal human beings. They think that it is so deeply entrenched, their idea of considering the Western people and the Jews and Christians superior, that they think our only relationship with them would be to suck up or to lick their boots. That's how telling it is, what kind of inferiority complex they have. But so I asked the very same question too when I was a younger Muslim, like if we are so great, why are we here in Germany? And why is it that the Muslim world seems so much, full of difficulties while the West is doing so well? And I was just often told, and these are still things that are told to adults, that Allah is testing us. Allah said the life will be paradise for the disbelievers, but it will be the opposite in the afterlife. All of these coping slogans. That's basically how they view it. But they usually acknowledge, most of the Muslim world, I would say, acknowledges that the West is far superior and that Jews and Christians are far superior. They just try to somehow, rationalize that.
Yeah, and we've brought up the options. So one option would be, hey, there's a problem with Islam, and there have been people who took that route. And the other possibility would be, well, maybe we're not following Islam hard enough, and so we need to go hardcore. And then you get the Iranian Revolution and the Muslim Brotherhood and things like that. And so anyway, as Douglas Murray said, well, it must be that the Jews have rigged the game, and that's what you have to think if you're, Hamas or something like that. They've rigged it, so we have to punish them for rigging the game and forcing us to not be as.
If the Jews were doing all of this stuff to us, we would be just as good.
Yeah. What if it was the Lemurians all along? That's that weird, like some weird continent, and there's this group. I don't know enough about it, but there was like this cult with like this mythical continent sank in the Indian Ocean or something like that.
Yeah.
Don Taylor said, why are many Iranians backing Israel against Hamas? I'm not totally familiar with this, but I would imagine that you have the Iranians who hate Israel and want to destroy it and fund it. But you also have large parts of the population who are enraged against their leaders. And so seems like they would side with Israel as a form of like rebellion, and also like they're connecting it. Oh, okay. The Iranian leadership, that's like Hamas. These guys have common goals and we're against that. And therefore,
there are lots of videos from inside Iran, but also from outside, from the Iranian diaspora. So you see people in the West, Iranians in the West, go out and carry their Iran flags and support Israel. And you also, I've seen lots of clips like people inside Iran, while the authorities or others, they're like, let us support our brothers in Palestine, and the crowd is like, woo, boo, get out of here, to hell with your get out with your Palestine and all of that. So lots of stuff like that is happening, and that just shows how the population in Iran is not at all in harmony with what their government is doing nowadays, and they are very much sick of it.
Yeah, I'm wondering when that whole thing's going to come collapsing to the ground, and that is one regime you want to collapse.
There's also the last elections. The participation in the elections was at record low. I think like most of the country didn't even bother voting because they thought, what's the point?
I never have heard young Earth people also add to 6,000 year Earth, with Adam living 933 years and Enoch 365 and all others who live for 300 years. Yeah, I don't particularly study this thing, but if anyone wants to explain everything to us, be happy to listen, and IP could be enraged about it.
Alhamdulillah.
In 9/11, fetus AP, were you still a baby? In 9/11, fetus AP was still eating his meth-infused Choco Cola with sauerkraut and bratwurst. On another note, AP, Turkish Rehat Lokum is the bomb.
It's quite sweet, but too much.
Did you eat sauerkraut and bratwurst?
No, I didn't.
Oh, then you're not German.
Can't do that. I was actually, I was an adolescent.
We should go to a Turkish restaurant one day, and you can show us what is actually legit Turkish food.
We should. You'll probably have a stomach ache. That's what happened when I took my wife to Turkish food. They use a lot of oil and stuff.
When Muslims saying the Bible is corrupted, it makes me laugh. On the other hand, the Quran could be corrupted because Allah speaks one language. Yeah, you got a lot of corrupting in 66 books spread all over the world. Adolfo says, blessings and much love to David and AP. Hopefully, my guy Golden Showers Hijab is watching. Oh, whoops! I forgot to click on it. Where is it? Adolfo. Golden Showers Hijab. Wonder why people call him that. Samuel says, it's a super sticker. Thanks. DJ says, Yasser Qadi, the more I learn of this D Wood guy. Oh. DJ. So Yasser Qadi would say, the more I learn of this D Wood guy, the more I think he's a real jerk. Oh, but do it in the Norm voice. You know what they're talking about?
I don't know.
Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald, he had this gift of understatement. He'd go, people always say, I'm talking about the nonsense. I decided to study that Hitler guy, and the more I read about him, the more I think this guy's a real jerk. but he put it like that.
Yeah. That's good.
Eric says, what is your opinion about a new Bible? Is a book published in 1882 purporting to contain new revelations. No idea. Never heard of that. So I wouldn't have any thoughts on that. Giovanni says, what do you guys think of the intelligence sources tasked with hunting down Osama that all say the same thing, that the most dangerous thing about him was that he was calm, collective, and incredibly intelligent? I mean, that would seem accurate. That's who you worry about. Those are generally the guys who can make long-term plans and hide and things like that.
This is so funny. I'm reading about this right now.
What?
Osborne, a New Bible, 1882, written by an American dentist who reported it to have been written by automatic writing. So where he just writes without thinking.
Interesting. Hi all, new to the channel, but am already a big fan. That's cool. Can you speak on the problem of cousin marriages in Islam, or how it is addressed in Islam? Don't you have a video on that, or is that someone else? You have
Yeah,
a
I
video.
do. I have a video on that I made like many
You want to
years
share
ago.
that in the chat real quick?
No.
Well, hey, yeah, it kind of depends on the area, but it's accepted in Islam, and you go to places like Pakistan, it's a huge problem because.
Yeah, it's over 50% in Pakistan, I believe. It's cousin marriage.
And that has, well, look at Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen. There are consequences of cousin marriage. Paul says, David Wood thinks he has God on his side. AP has reason, logic, and being an ex-Muslim, I trust AP more than D Wood. I do love D Wood. BS, though. Well, everyone is free in the West to believe stupid things, Paul. So you're allowed to side with AP over me.
Alhamdulillah. It's beautiful. Felt well said.
Julio says, hello, handsome people, and hello, David. That's funny. You hear that? Hello, handsome people, and hello, David. AP, you need to read up a ton of philosophical atheism. I do not want you going theist. Just kidding. You do you.
Thank you.
Philosophical atheism.
Then we go to the classical atheism, to the old ones.
Philosophical atheism. If that's not an oxymoron,
Did you ever study those guys? Did you ever study? I don't know.
Who?
What is it? Feuerbach? No. I don't know. Let's talk about the oldest ones.
I remember Feuerbach. Was that the guy who said? I mean, he quoted in ancient Greek, but I think he was the one who's talking about if horses could make a god, they would make a god like a horse. Wait, was that Feuerbach? I'm trying to remember. I remember. Yeah, I remember. Feuerbach.
I never read
It was a long
anything
time ago.
from those people, but I don't know. That's funny.
AP needs to read the entire New Testament. I'm being lazy.
I have. I should. I think I read most or all of the Gospels, but I'm pretty sure I have read near to nothing outside of the Gospels in the New Testament.
Well, that explains why you're still an atheist. Where's the video about Muhammad Ali tricked into Islam? I think that's still on my old channel, which I gave to Hatun. So if you go to Hatun Tosh DCCI Ministries, that's my old channel, and I think I left that video up. I left some of the videos that weren't getting ridiculous flags constantly. I left some of those up. Oh, hey, follow-up question, which you just answered. AP, how much of the New Testament have you read? Have you ever read the book of Acts of the Apostles or any of the letters of Paul, Peter, or John?
I'm pretty sure, aside from looking up specific sources here and there when answering certain things, or just trying to find a reference to something, I looked up certain parts of those, but I never really read any of those. But I did read the Gospels, I would say. Mostly.
I would say follow-up reading, read the book of Acts, and then go Romans and Galatians. If you want to,
I shall.
You want to get the big picture. David, please join the I Hate the Antichrist podcast. Not familiar with it, but I'm sure AP would join the I Love the Antichrist podcast.
Yeah, I would love it. I would join immediately.
Here we got it. Dawn Taylor. I missed the repentance part of her conversion. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've always got the people who are like, okay, she comes from a massively messed up Islamic background, becomes an atheist, hangs out with the new atheists all this time, then declares that she's a Christian, but says, I'm going to church. I don't know enough about it. And then, she didn't get it right. Notice this is, and by
true,
the way,
though. Why didn't she repent?
Yeah, and this is a pretty natural reaction. I've seen it from lots of Christians all over the internet. But the parallel, this kind of thinking, like, hey, we cannot acknowledge any sort of progress in a person's views. You just got to be finished final product, and that's all that matters. I mean, notice it's like the people, the United States is evil. Really, what's evil? They had slavery. Like, wait a minute. Can you acknowledge that they like progressed out of it? And that was like started, like that's what it was. Like they started with what they were given. I mean, there was slavery there before the United States existed, and then it didn't last a century, and they kind of progressed. Can you acknowledge that? No.
Why
gotta be
weren't they always perfect?
You got to start off as finished final product, or shut up.
Why weren't they always perfect?
Justin says, as a former member of the United Methodist Church, I'm skeptical that the church will help that much in combating the influence of Islam. Yet we're not talking, dude, I'm not talking about the church the way it is now. I'm saying for some reason, when people took it seriously, they did not submit to Islam. They didn't. They just did not submit to Islam. Now, yes, your average church would bend over backwards to not hurt the feelings of a Muslim. The church itself has absorbed a ton of bad ideas. We're not saying, hey, yeah, the church as it is going to look around. It's not. We're saying, and this is what Ayaan Hirsi Ali is saying. This is what has the potential to. This is what has the potential to stand against it.
Okay, here's one thing I'm going to say, though. So I know that this might get a lot of disagreement, and you'll be like, how dare you say this? And people might hate me for it. But just an observation as an outsider who looks into history, who likes to look into history, I feel like the Orthodox and the Catholic trends were more resistant against Islam than the Protestant. And wouldn't you agree with that to a certain extent? And why is that? Why is that lacking in the Protestant realm?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. I would agree that there is but I can give you an idea of an issue. Chesterton brought this up. It's interesting because Chesterton, he eventually became a Catholic, but he said this before he became a Catholic, and it's tied into lots of other things. But even in Orthodoxy, before he became a Catholic, he referred to the fracturing of the church that occurred with the Protestant Reformation. And people look at that and say, why is he blasting away at the Protestant Reformation? The point he's making, and I've seen Jordan Peterson make this same point when he was talking to Constantine from Trigonometry, when Constantine's like, I don't believe I need this mediator, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't need these mediators between me and God and something like this. You go, well, that would make you a good Protestant then, right? He's talking about the type of thinking. But what Chesterton was getting at is you have the church. You used to have the church. You had the church. And Martin Luther starts off, he's not trying to start another church. He's saying, hey, here are all the things we need to fix. And they have people saying, no, we're not going along with you on these things. And then so it gets to a point where, okay, I'm no longer offering an internal critique. We're separating. We need to be separate, right? And notice, I don't know what else you do if you say, hey, I cannot be, I disagree with you. I do not believe that some of the things you're saying are actually correct, and you're not willing to fix them. And therefore I just have to go start my own thing. But what Chesterton's getting at is, so now notice you have another church. So you got the church and you got this other church. But notice the pattern you just set. We have disagreements, we split. We don't keep it together and settle our disagreements, we split. So what happens? Okay, well, are you going to have disagreements within Protestantism? Yeah, so what do? Well, okay, I disagree with you about this. All right, split again. I disagree with you again. Now split again. And eventually you're just totally fractured, right? And so that's kind of Chesterton's position. Then you end up with, you've got the Catholic Church, and then you have like a ton of different Protestant churches. Mm-hmm. And so you lack the danger is you eventually get to a point where, you believe in having the flowers on that side of the stage. I prefer my flowers on this side of the stage. Therefore, we need to separate and have two different churches, and you can have the flowers on that side and I'll have the flowers on this side. And we need to separate over everything until it's just, what do you prefer as a person? Let's have a church for whatever you happen to prefer. And so you end up with a kind of fracturing. Now, once that has gone on long enough, it's like you don't have something that really stands united against something else. So I would say that towards the beginning, before it had kept fracturing a ton, Protestants would not have given an inch to Islam, but you do have this tendency to split up into more and more denominations, which kind of lack a kind of unity after that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Arctic Canyon says, "I'm anything. Does AP believe in me?" because I said you'll believe in anything. You're the hero.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Joshua says, "I wish there was a book to warn against and look for false teachers and fake people exploiting the poor, widowed, and the orphans." Yeah, we definitely need to look for a book like that.
Never heard of that.
AP, you need to read better atheology. Yeah, enough of this, all this negative Nancy stuff. Schopenhauer. Jason says, "Check my playlist, God's Bible Evidences, the archaeological, historical, and scientific evidences that the Bible, the biblical God is the only God and Jesus is Lord." So we've got a playlist there.
Nice.
Gunna says, "Notice Ecclesiastes summarized in conclusion is to fear God and keep his commandments being the whole duty of man." AP is yet to justify Ecclesiastes as his favorite, because that is the conclusion, right? So, hey, I did this, that turned out to be meaningless. I did that tends to be meaningless. I did that turned out to be meaningless. And so at the end of the day, fear God, no
But
pain.
you know why I loved Ecclesiastes as soon as I heard it, or as soon as I read it. I feel like it was such a huge difference from what I understood Scripture to be. In Islam. Because it is such a deep contemplation, and a very old and deep contemplation of the meaning of everything you're doing. Because in Islam you don't get that. In Islam you just get, Allah wants this from you, Allah wants that from you, and if you don't believe, then you're stupid and you are sick and Allah hates you and this and that, and that's what you get. And then I open Ecclesiastes and I get an actual long and deep contemplation about why exactly am I doing what I'm doing? Everything seems meaningless, and that is not something that you can ever find in Islamic texts. And that was very, very impressive to me, and I still find it very, very deep and very, very nice.
Yeah, and I read Ecclesiastes shortly after I became a Christian. I had read Politics in the English Language, so I'd seen quotes from Ecclesiastes, but I read it a little, a month or two after I became a Christian. And the reason I found it fascinating was, like, I had concluded that life was meaningless before I became a Christian. So it was almost like it was mocking my beliefs, right? Like mocking what I had just abandoned and stuff. And anyway, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
The real Mescriz here says the Earth is 9 years old.
Didn't expect that come.
People keep combining all the different stuff. Danilo says, Islam is the fake religion that God warned us about. All that Muhammad did and stands for is exactly what Satan would want to do to corrupt humanity. Yeah, I mean, it does look. I mean, if you were to look at the New Testament concept of a false prophet and what a false prophet is going to do, it would look a lot like Islam. And I've mentioned this before, that, Muhammad comes along, hey, you Christians, hey, I agree with you. God exists. I agree with you. God sent prophets. I agree with you. Jesus is born of a virgin. I agree with you. He performed all these miracles. I agree with you. He's the Messiah. I agree with you. He's going to come back. Only problem is he didn't die on the cross for sins. He didn't rise from the dead. And he's not Lord. It's like, wait, AP, if you eventually read the book of Acts, that's the core of the Christian gospel. And we're told that false prophets are going to come and are going to corrupt that. And you say, well, why not corrupt everything? Why not corrupt absolutely everything? Well, it's been pointed out, like, the job of a good counterfeiter, is to make it as much like what's authentic as possible while still being counterfeit and so on. So the response to Muhammad should be, my goodness, we've been waiting for you. You are like the perfect example of what a false prophet is supposed to be. Yeah, where have you been all our lives? You're the ultimate false prophet. The next Zakir Naik here says, David, if you watch Ken Ham and Ken Hovind, they will convince you that the earth is young. They will destroy you. Joking.
Will humiliate you.
He says, joking, I'm leaning towards young earth creation. And what's funny is, like, you got the people who are enraged at Ken Ham and Ken Hovind. So these are like the young earth guys. I don't know. I like them. I kind of like them all. Like, I totally like people who might disagree with me or have other positions and so on. I was like, okay, I get your point. I see. Okay. You're saying, hey, We're Genesis says this. A bunch of scientists who change their mind all the time say something else. I'll go with Genesis.
I mean, Ken Ham is kind of a nice-ish guy.
Well, he's also funny, and for me, that's the criterion. Like, if you're funny, I've watched and listened to Ken Ham before. He's actually Australian, and he's funny.
Yeah, the thing with Kent Hovind is that he is very antagonizing, very offensive to people who hold different ideas, which is why people often, kind of reply with the very same attitude.
Kale says, does AP believe that morality is relative or objective? Relative.
See, that is a very, 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 very big discussion.
You're just scared of the word.
No, because I don't believe that it is possible to reduce it to objective and relative, or objective and subjective. I feel like that is a complete oversimplification of things, and I lean more toward saying that morality is non-cognitive, or that it cannot be relative the way I see it, and that it is merely that it never becomes at some point, that moral values never become at some point facts, that they never become actually verifiable or true or false, no matter if we're talking about objective or relative, but that morality is entirely simply a concept, a system that humans established to deal with certain needs that they saw in life, such as the need to live together in a society. They adopted certain ideas to which they then established rules and acted as if those rules were self-explanatory or natural, or that's just the natural order of things, or my morals are better than your morals. But in the end, at the root of all of it, they are just expressions of people's feelings, of what they think is and isn't good. And some people call that emotivism, for example. That is one way of understanding it. But the issue is, I find the whole discussion of objectivism and relativism way too much of an oversimplification.
Except everything you just said shows that you believe it's relative. So
no, there is a difference, though. There is a difference here. There is a very clear difference here. But I would have. And that's also the thing. Like, if you look at it from the outside, you would say, well, but that is relativism. Okay, yes, you might say that is relativism, but from the very perspective itself, which is actually what matters here, it is not relativism. From the perspective, like from the non-cognitivist perspective, you could say
relativism is objectively true.
But I don't agree with either of them. I think they're both not entirely correct. So whatever, long discussion. I talked about this in my whole Muhammad Hijab video a long time ago, and it already took like half the video.
Where you defended incest and cousin marriage?
No.
That's what I heard from them. Anyway, Abdu says, I think the genealogy of Jesus in Luke 3 is proof for a young earth theology. A young earther might say that, but an old earther would say there's more evidence involved that you have to consider. Mm-hmm. Super chat from Snipe. Comment Mars. Super chat. Giovanni, almost done here. Giovanni says, have you guys read Milton's Paradise Lost? If so, what were your thoughts on it? I had to read, I don't remember if we read the entire thing or just parts of it, but yeah, I had to read a bunch of that in high school. Yeah, I don't remember my thoughts on it. I wasn't into that kind of poetry back then. You ever read Paradise Lost?
I never read it through. I mean, I know about it, but I didn't read it.
Recall that's where I think that's where Satan says it's better to rule in hell than to reign in heaven.
Very based.
Based Satan, based devil. Notice AP always notice who AP always sides with, ladies and gentlemen.
No, earlier I said Christianity is based. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's good. I gotta cut that part out. Yeah. Tom says, love you, AP and David Wood. Love your videos and hope you both are doing well. God bless.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Mars again. Let's see. David, do you know Israel caged 30,000 Christian refugees from Eritrea in a desert detention center because they are not Jewish? You familiar with this, AP?
Pretty sure it's not because they're not Jewish.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was. I think it was because they were basically migrants who went there, right? Something like that. And they were like,
yeah,
you can't just move in here.
Yeah, and I don't know. I would have to look into that further, but
yeah. I was in Israel. There were Christians all over the place. There were Christian street preachers standing on corners preaching the gospel and handing out tracts.
There was also this whole conspiracy theory that Israel banned the Bible, Israel banned the Gospels, Israel banned this and that. It's like it never happened. It was one guy from a far right religious group suggesting such a thing, which was then criticized and shut down immediately, for example. But people like to just.
Yeah. The Real Mess Chris here says, Dear AP, greetings from Paul. Which Paul's that? The Apostle Paul?
I think so.
Antonio. Let's see. Daphne. Hi, David and AP. Watching you guys from Malaysia and love it every time you guys do live together. Keep it up. Oh, we will. Christine Live says, in the Catholic faith, we believe Mother Mary is instrumental in converting the Muslims as they seem to have reverence for her. Would love to see you do a video on the well-documented apparition of Our Lady of Zaytun in Egypt. Love you guys. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that because they do, Mary's the only woman mentioned by name in the Quran, and they've got an entire book about her. So yeah, I hadn't thought about the role of Mary in preaching to Muslims. Now you need to read more, AP, The Future Christian.
How dare you? I read everything.
Everyone's got reading lists for AP. Like there's been like 20 things you're supposed to read. Tom S says, what's your opinion on the Matrix reincarnation soul trap?
What?
Not familiar with it. Justin Smiley, as a Christian, I worry about the continuous splitting, and yet I split from the UMC. Is there any closing of that leather strap? Yeah, that's a rough one because again, I mean, Chesterton, he became a Catholic. He said it before he became a Catholic, but he acknowledged the issue. Once you start, I mean, on the one hand, there's kind of a slippery slope fallacy. You can't say, okay, if I split it all, then the danger is we'll just split into a million little pieces. But I mean, it is an issue, and what the result is. And it doesn't just happen in Christianity, but it has an impact on everyone else in Western society. We have this disagreement, so we split into two things. It is not an internal critique and an internal discussion. We just keep splitting. The result is that you have all these different churches that emphasize these different things, and then you kind of miss like the whole package. But it doesn't just stop with Christianity. Then everyone ends up with their own little virtue that is now separated from everything else, and it's just its own little thing. And then they'll treat it like an idol, and so you end up with a fractured society, not just a fractured church, a fractured society where different groups rally around certain values and so on, and treat them like idols and don't care about anything else because there's nothing that connects them anymore.
And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made.
And the people bowed and prayed. Ben says, David and AP, you all are great. We know. Just wanted to show my appreciation and gratitude for your work and your efforts.
I think we don't know that.
Into taking down Islam. Joshua says, any Christian dismissing Ayaan Hirsi, Ali, and Kat Von D. Philippians 1:6, if we are born again, sanctification is a process. Also, don't let Muhammad Hijab hear you say, God hole, they sexualize everything. Yeah, you got to worry about what you say around these pervert Dawa guys. For the Christians who are like, I'm not even clear on whether she believes in God. So, I mean, it's not clear that she is it doesn't look like she's a Christian in any traditional Christian sense of the term. I'm looking at this like, Well, let me just give you an example. So this was years ago, maybe, I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but maybe 2012 or something. I did a debate at Columbia University, and I was hanging out with some atheists afterwards. They were all Asian atheist students. And we were hanging out afterwards, maybe 5 or 6 of them. And they kept asking me, why do you believe this? Why do you believe that? And so on. Anyway, gave them a short version of my testimony and so on. And then we're talking about various arguments. And then one of them finally says, he goes, yeah, I'm just going to be honest. I don't care about whether it's true. I just care that it's bad. And he said that. And so, and I was shocked by this because, you know, this isn't too far away from when I was, you know, a young atheist and so on. But that was totally foreign to me. It was like, wait a minute. I mean, I was an atheist because I didn't believe, but it mattered to me. But the main concern is whether it's true or not, right? If it's true, then okay, I'm going to believe it. It being bad would be a secondary concern, but for them it was the main concern. But anyway, I'm sitting there with these students, and I was like surprised that he said, "I don't care if it's true. I just care that it's bad." And I went down the line, and and I said, "Do you agree with that?" And the next atheist agreed. And I went to the next one. This entire line of atheists all agreed with that claim. I do not care if it's true. I just care that it's bad. And I was really surprised by that. But anyway, that was kind of the middle of this whole atheist movement. Religion's just bad. It's all terrible. It does nothing. It does nothing but hinder and hurt society from developing. And now, one of the reasons I haven't gone nearly as hard against atheism as I have against Islam is, I mean, I've talked about some of the reasons before. Almost no one wanted to deal with Islam. Everyone wanted to deal with atheism. But there was a part of it where I was like, I believe your entire experiment's going to fail. And so I'm just going to wait till this comes crumbling to the ground, because I think you guys have to go through it. And now it's crumbling to the ground. Now you have people who were prominent atheists all of a sudden saying, actually, guys, I'm going to church now because this sucks. What we've come up with sucks. And then...
Well, they were never real atheists to begin with. The real atheism is not like this. Nobody leaves atheism. Atheism didn't leave her. No, other way around. Sorry. Wrong.
Yeah, so... oh, whoops, did I forget to put that comment up there? Yeah.
You did.
As far as but she's not on board with all this. She doesn't have Christianity right yet. I mean, guys, do not underestimate the importance. If you've got all these atheists saying, I don't care if it's true or not, I care that it's bad. But then they decide that it's not bad anymore so that they can actually examine whether they believe in it or not. That's kind of a huge step. So I wouldn't be flipping out and being terribly negative over that.
How dare she not hold the right beliefs? Yeah, but the issue is that the average person doesn't necessarily hold the best ideas about whatever belief they have, right? So I'm sure you would agree with that, right? And
yeah, I would say people underestimate the number of people who are just, you know, they grew up as a Christian and they haven't really thought through everything. And so you have a range of people. And I mean, a woman who just came out and said, okay, now I got the Muslims. I've had the Muslims after me for a while, and now I'm going to have to deal with the new atheists. But all right, I'm a Christian now. I don't know. I wouldn't be. But you don't have this right. You didn't subscribe to the Baptist Convention of 1832. No, I understand. I'm kind of joking because that what we've read in this article, that is not actually a Christian yet. But again, I'm looking in terms of, my goodness, look where she came from, then what she jumps into, and now what she's saying now. It looks like she's on a pretty awesome path. And as much as people like AP want to sit back and cry, I can't believe it, she's betrayed the atheist community. She was never a real atheist. You little weakling, you are never a real atheist.
Get the rocks. So the thing is also with many of the atheists, especially with the whole new atheist trend, lots of people, lots of them, I would say that their idea of atheism is not necessarily grounded in in questioning the nature of things, in questioning the world, and concluding, you know what? Nope, it doesn't make sense. I conclude hereby that there is no God.
Mm-hmm.
It's more a sensational thing. It's more of an emotional issue, more like a rejection of the moral aspects, uh, more like going with the trend, more like saying religion. What do you think this is, 19th century?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's most people don't like hold the best
Yeah, there's lots of
reasons to have certain beliefs.
yeah, there's lots of superficial stuff going on where people just kind of go along with the crowd they're in, or what's popular at a time, or something like that, or something they saw on a YouTube video, and it's not a lot of
Yeah.
depth to it. And that's true of a lot of people. That's true of people from a lot of different backgrounds. I will say, kind of, that I mean, what she's saying, again, you have issues here, but she's not terribly far off from certain things in the history of Christianity that Christians generally like. I mean, think about like Pascal's wager, where Pascal, who's one of the pioneers of probability theory, says, hey, you don't believe in God? Suppose the odds were like 50-50 of whether God exists or didn't exist. Then, theoretically, you wouldn't say you believe in God because you believe it's just like a 50% chance or something like that. But think about it. If you believe in God and follow God and it turns out to be true, then you'd get eternity. If you follow God and it turns out not to be true, then, well, you haven't lost anything because it's just pointless anyway. But if you don't follow God and God is real and so on, then, I mean, you've just lost a lot. You've lost a lot. You haven't been following the truth. And so he puts everything in terms of like betting categories. Like if you could wager a bet, and you had a chance of an infinite payoff, you should take that bet. If I said, hey, I'm going to put $10 down, I might win some infinite payoff, you should take that in a heartbeat. But notice,
And
what he's saying is, this isn't solely about like the truth and what you know. There are other things that are involved in that. Most Christians like things like Pascal's wager. Oh, he's making a good point, because this is eternity involved. You should be taking that more seriously. And even if you weren't sure, well, let me give another example.
thank you for reminding us of the worst argument for God there is.
They're all. That's not an argument for God. That was an argument if you were 50-50, taking other considerations.
Okay,
And there are all sorts of problems with Pascal's wager. Just like, okay, is it 50-50? There are other problems.
That's my main thing. It's not 50-50.
Yeah, there are other problems. Namely, just believing in God is not like I don't know anyone who thinks just believing in God that's the deciding factor in whether you spend an eternity with God. But the relevant issue there, because you could modify the position to get a better argument. But what he's advocating is called, I think if I recall correctly, it's been a while, but I think it's called doxastic voluntarism, meaning you can decide what to believe. I can just will myself into believing certain things that I want to believe for other reasons. And I had a discussion of that in my dissertation. I think one example I used was, imagine a scenario where your daughter is kidnapped. And suppose police tell you after she's been kidnapped that 80% of the time after a girl's been gone a certain period of time, she's been killed, and only 20% of girls are alive after a certain amount of time. And so your daughter's been gone this amount of time, and so there's a 20% chance that your daughter is alive. Statistically, it's a 20% chance. Should you, if there were like a switch that you could flip to believe that your daughter is alive, should you believe that she's alive, knowing that there's a 20% chance that she's actually alive? I think you could make a case, and this would be doxastic voluntarism, which is like you decide what you want to believe and you believe that. I think you can make a case that you should believe in that, even if it was only a 20% chance. The reason would be, if you know that you're going to, on the 20% chance that she's alive, if you know you have a much better chance of finding her if you are convinced that she's alive, you're better off believing that she's alive until you find out otherwise. And this is people who are searching through rubble after an earthquake or something. They say the same thing. They say, hey, we have no evidence that anyone's alive under there, but we have to search as if people are alive under there. And so the point here is there can be other factors other than what evidence do I have that this position is true? And let me go solely with the evidence. There are considerations. There are considerations like, hey, what does this lead to? Does this lead to the kind of world I want to be in? Is this capable of standing against the threats against me, and so on? So yeah, she's definitely missing some things as far as what we've read. But anyway, I said this towards the beginning. It's like, okay, here are the requirements for being a Christian, but I mean, in terms of deciding your beliefs, there are other relevant factors that need to be taken into account. And again, Pascal said that there are other factors involved.
And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made.
Mei Yin says, "Keep up the good work, guys." No. AP will keep up the horrible work. I'll keep up the good work.
What a response to the comment. No.
Hello outside. Luke 11:23. Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. So AP is scattering. Daphne says, "Hey AP, how did you learn Hebrew? That is weird. I'm curious as I'm a polyglot myself and would like to learn this language."
I didn't learn it. I was just trying to read it, and I was actually cheating doing that. So yeah.
Cheater!
I wish I learned it. I mean I can read the Cyrillic or Cyrillic, whatever you want to say it, the Russian script. I read the Arabic. I can read some of the Japanese scripts. I learned at some point for some reason to read these different scripts without actually learning the language, which is very funny. But yeah, no, I can't speak it.
Here we have Mrs. Apostate. What's more likely, AP to become Christian or David to become Roman Catholic? That's a tough one.
We will never know.
Yeah.
We will never know. This is interesting.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think I'm going to become Roman Catholic. I have to say,
How dare you?
I'm not. Lots of the Protestant problems with Roman Catholicism, I don't have as big a problem with. In other words, I can understand the Catholic defenses, even if I don't believe in the Catholic defenses. I get it, right? In other words, like your average Protestant would have a really big problem with asking saints for intercession, and I'm like, yeah, why the heck would you be talking to people or something like that to intercede? What the heck? What is going on there? And then the Catholic defense would be like, hey, what are you talking about? You can ask another Christian. You can ask another Christian to intercede for you. You can ask a Christian. You find that in the Bible. Paul says, hey, pray for us. So if you can ask another Christian to pray for you, why wouldn't you think that you could talk to someone who's already with the Almighty to pray for you? So anyway, I get things like that. Even like lots of Protestants would have a problem with the communion actually becoming the body and blood of Christ in some sense. And and they say, it's just too weird. It's like, well, that's kind of a lot of the idea behind Christianity is like the supernatural realm entering into our world in some fashion. So I don't, it does sound weird to me too. I interpret it as symbolic, but I can get why this is. Point is, I don't think a lot of the stuff is as big a problem as people think it is for me personally. But yeah, I haven't seen any compelling reason why I should become.
Weird is not necessarily an argument. Yeah,
you're weird. Giovanni says, my belief system is that everyone should have minority sex. Can't say that around AP. Anakin says, why doesn't AP debate the Pope? What, is he scared? That's a good point. Constantine says, atheism is cringe. Therefore, all arguments for atheism are cringe. Being cringe is bad. With this powerful apologetic, AP must now renounce his atheism. That is one of the great, because AP already said.
Did you say at any point that Christianity is based? Do you have to establish that?
You already said that Christianity is based. You said it, and now we all agree that atheism is cringe. So done. David make a live with Father Josiah Trenham. Not familiar with him. Have you read Rene Girard's work, Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World? He was a professor at Stanford University. I haven't. You familiar with that?
What? Who?
I have no idea. What? People are just asking. They're telling you what to read and asking you what you've read.
I didn't read anything in my entire life.
AP, God isn't entirely bound to books. He may come to you through books and philosophers, and he may not, but he will call out to you. D. Wood answered, Andrew Clavin answered, and I pray you will too. We answered the call. You didn't. What's wrong with you?
100.
Let's see. Cedric, would you grant that truth-seeking is synonymous with authentic religious persuasion, or do you see this is closer to false equivalency?
This is an interesting question. What do you think?
I'd have to think about it. I don't like blurting out answers, unlike you. Truth-seeking is synonymous with authentic religious persuasion. You could say that's what you mean by it.
Do you then say that this is a noble or good thing, or do you not put any such value on it at all?
Who do you think you're talking to? Truth-seeking is synonymous with authentic religious persuasion. Or do you see this is closer to false equivalency?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. Something to think about. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. Carlo here says, Catholics have always been defending the faith against Islam. Welcome to the club. Prots. Yep. I would say part of the reason this was more, so Catholics were doing this before you even had the Protestant Reformation, but also the countries that were involved, even after the Protestant Reformation, Spain, France, and then on into Eastern Europe, those were Catholic countries. So they were more on the front lines, let's say. Although Eastern Orthodox were there too. But yeah, Protestants tended to be more up north.
Yeah, but Orthodox were the first who encountered, you could say, Islam, and they experienced the aggressiveness of Islam the harshest, endured it the longest, and even today, I think generally among Christians, the Eastern Orthodox world is the most rejecting, unaccepting of Islamic influence. It might have to do with the history. I don't know.
And
but
I think
it's all the geography.
I would have to think about this a little more because I'm not just going to say, hey, because I'm not Catholic, I wouldn't make these points or something. But notice, just based on geography, if Catholics and Orthodox are the ones who are dealing with Islam on the front, so they're dealing with Islam as a threat on the front line, but Protestants who are up north, they're dealing with Catholicism as the concern. So I think what you could potentially say, and we need someone who's more of a historian than I am. I'm just thinking about it as far as ideas are concerned. If Protestants are not nearly as concerned with Islam because it is not as much of a direct threat to them, and they're more concerned with Catholicism, I think you could posit that ultimately leads to places that aren't nearly as that don't view Islam as much of a threat, and therefore this could potentially lead to being softer on Islam in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have to think about that a little more. Matter of fact, you got this right here.
Antonio
says Catholics were more active versus Muslims. No, I just said that. Now Protestants are more effective because they act on their own. If the Pope were to criticize Islam, anti-Catholic backlash everywhere.
That's true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's true.
Truth Hunter here says the ages of people, we're back on young Earth. The ages of people, Adam to Noah, makes sense within about 1400 years. When they had the next generation, they wouldn't be 900 years old. The Bible says each was around 100 when they had the next in line. Eli. Hey, Eli. How you doing? You going to EPS? I'm going to be there. Eli says, to believe in Jesus is to give up what you can't keep, to win what you can't lose. It's a win-win. Love you both. See there?
Thank you.
That's Eli's wager, like Pascal's wager. Joshua here, almost done. Quarter for D Wood. That liar sound you play is hilarious, but what is it from? You both have a better soundboard than every radio station. Yeah, that's from Princess Bride.
What is Princess Bride?
Oh, you got to watch Princess Bride. You'll love it. I have a pretty good idea of your movie taste. It's a little different from a lot of the stuff you talk about, but yeah, phenomenal. But in that one, the guy dies and they bring him to Miracle Max to bring him back, and his wife accuses him of lying to cover up true love. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome movie. You should check it out.
Nice.
And let's see. Whoops. Oh, yeah, I already saw that. And the last one, Helen said, it's a super sticker. All right. Wow. We've been on for a long time. We got through the super chats, everyone. But, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of people who were hostile at some point to certain ideas. Hopefully rallying around some better ideas. I'm wondering if there's anyone else we can think of who should follow this pattern of from Islam to atheism to Christianity. If you can think of anyone, let me know.
Nobody comes to mind.
AP, final thoughts on all this before I close out?
I would say, this is all I expected, of course. So what do you expect from somebody who was never really a true atheist to begin with, and who never really, thought about anything, doesn't know anything, it's all emotions. But aside from all of that, yeah, of course, all of that is nonsense. I do appreciate the perspective that Ayaan Hirsi presents, and I would say that I still can say that I respect the way she views things, her journey, the way she addresses it. Very significant. I'm looking forward to see where she will get with this. And I hope it will not end with, what do you mean by God? What do you mean by do? What do you mean by you? What do you mean by believe? What do you mean by in? What do you mean by God? So what she's doing right now is definitely better than that. But we'll see.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more as people start to realize, like, whatever you think about her conclusion in all of this, she is diagnosing some of the problem. We're all arguing about all these things over here while people are marching to annihilate you, and so. But we will see what happens. But yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Two last super chats here. Constantine, John of Damascus, the original Christian critic of Islam, and still one of the best. I encourage people to read that because he has some. Matter of fact, I should make some videos about some of the points he makes because people don't use them, and he's got some interesting, very interesting arguments against Islam. And hello, outsiders. Here's one for you, AP. When sects come before the leather strap of the anus, all I want is unity. See, enough of the sects. This
is the kind of people that watch your channel.
Yeah. All right, we need to cut it off quick before people post a bunch of other stuff that's just meant to make AP laugh. All right, so what everyone can hear, what everyone can agree with here, me, AP, Ayaan, everyone, is it can all be summed up in a song, and we got Farfor here. How about no?
How about no? I don't buy your Ella.
And if you wanted to put it in musical form, what? You just ruined everything. You interrupted the song. You never interrupt the song.
You don't interrupt the song. It's fine.
Never, ever interrupt the song, AP.
Don't talk while the song is going. Don't talk while the song is going. Can't hear the song.
All right, what did you want to rudely interrupt with?
Oh, nothing. It's not important.
I had the perfect conclusion. All right, everyone. We will. Super chats coming in. Let me do this last one, put up on the screen. What do you think about the Reconquista movement in the U.S.? No idea. Oh, no. Now we got more super chats coming in. Did you check out
what I was wanting to say is that whole sound from Jordan Peterson. I don't buy your Ella. There was this old song by Rihanna and Jay-Z, Umbrella. And it goes like, you can sit under my umbrella, Ella, Ella. And I thought it would be funny to do a remix
Oh, combine that. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
make it Jordan Peterson. Ella,
Yeah,
Ella.
like, like, I don't buy your Ella, 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 like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Would be a good remix.
We come up with too many good ideas. In fact, if people just
Yeah.
watched us and they saw the ideas that we blurted out and then forget about, and they actually did them, they would be very, very.
Yeah.
They would have very, very popular channels.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
everyone. We'll catch you all next time.
See ya.